Look, my life was already an absolute dumpster fire before the whole dying and waking up as a starving orphan in a fantasy world plot twist went down. Picture this: a broke grad student, parents gone from a car crash, surviving on side hustles and instant ramen, trying to wrap up a biology thesis that made me want to straight up weep into my beakers. Every single night, the only vibe keeping me sane was my buddy technically my boss, this younger kid named Lou, who launched a cat cafe while still in college. Same age range as me, already a CEO. Life is fair, right. He hooked me up with a gig at a shop, which was honestly the nicest thing anyone had done for me in years. After work, we'd hop online and grind this cozy, building game together, stacking blocks and farming digital carrots, like a couple of no-name NPCs. It was my therapy, my escape, my one crumb of peace. Then one rainy night, I dragged myself out of the lab soaking wet because, of course, I left my umbrella behind. Got back to my dorm, clothes dripping all over the floor. Sat down at my PC to play a quick session, and my body just gave out, like someone pulled the plug on me mid-match. Brain went static. Limbs turned to lead, and everything faded to black. Just like that, I was gone. A cold, a fever. I didn't even notice, and boom. Total game over. Next thing I know, my consciousness flickers back on, like a flickering neon light, and some massive, rough hands are hauling me out of the rubble. People are screaming. Someone almost poured lamp oil down my throat instead of water. What a phenomenal first impression of the afterlife, seriously. My eyes fluttered open, and everyone around me was glowing, literally lit up with this faint white aura. My initial thought, did I actually make it to heaven? But hey, I'm Chinese. Heaven doesn't have jurisdiction here. Turns out, definitely not heaven. Not even close. A total ghost town. Renaissance-style buildings smashed to smithereens. Soldiers in heavy steel armor, dragging around actual corpses. And the main culprit behind this total carnage, a one-eyed giant, like an actual cyclops covered in gross tumors, swinging a club the size of a minivan. The kind of boss fight you see in video games. Not in real life, except this wasn't a game at all. And those body parts scattered across the dirt were horrifyingly real. The squad captain, this exhausted guy with bedhead and armor that looked like it survived the Middle Ages, barked some orders and handed me over to his second in command, a badass named Lena. She was both a medic and a fighter, which immediately let me know this world was no joke. She scooped me up and threw me over her shoulder, like a sack of potatoes, her shoulder guard digging straight into my stomach the whole way. Super comfy, and the view from up there, oh, absolutely elite. Ablaze dwellings, troops stacking up, gory remains, entrails spilling out mid-transport. One poor dude totally squashed in a human paste. Plate armor and meat mashed together, like the most cursed meal ever put together. My gut did a complete flip. If you hurl on me, Lena dropped. Stone cold. I'll toss you on the heap and light you up too. I bought no cap. She dropped me down, and I speed crawled to a wall. Puked out my entire soul, which was basically empty, and then the stench of charred flesh and lamp fuel hit me out of nowhere, and I blacked out again. What an absolute cinematic entrance to this new realm. Not gonna lie. Woke up later on a tiny cot inside a field hospital. Candlelight, flickering body, aching from head to toe. Though nothing was fractured, the kid whose spot I took, some random, nameless orphan, who had been roaming around starving, had literally zero connections, zero backstory, zero people who would give a damn, honestly. Peak disguise. As long as I didn't start ranting about mobile phones. In grad school, nobody would suspect a single thing. Lena rolled back with grub, a bowl of watery porridge, and casually dropped that a cyclops had leveled the entire settlement, slaughtered practically everyone, and I somehow pulled through by getting pinned beneath a fallen barrier without actually getting crushed to death. Lucky or totally unlucky, she mentioned. Story of my entire life, fam. She asked if I remembered my identity. The orphan boy never had one, but my actual name, Leon. Tried to stumble out of my tiny new mouth, Leon. Leon, she arched an eyebrow. You know it's sure Leon. And for a surname, I pieced together. Cozy, because back in that facility, the one wish I made was to live a chill life. Vibe check failed, considering I had just respawned into a war zone, rife with man-eating giants. Cozy Alliance, I told her my name's Cozy, Alliance Cozy. In a universe where cyclopes use humans as stress toys. Yeah, this was going to be fine. Oh, and apparently back on Earth. Some ancient divine entity. A giant fluffy white beast chilling in a forest. Spotted my soul floating past, because I used to groom its coat at the cat cafe. It had been masking itself as a regular kitty all along. It flicked a small blessing my way. Like tossing spare change, muttered something about freeloading. Free cake from Lululemon, and shipped me off. My entire overpowered ice guy origin story exists. Simply because I gave a deity a good brushing. You literally cannot script this madness. After Lena hit me with a few basic inquiries, to verify my brain hadn't turned to mush, she broke down the whole situation, ordered me to eat on time, and bolted to check on the rest of the survivors. What a warm and fuzzy personality that one. Meanwhile, Commander Astaga, Bird's Nest hair dude, was pulling an all-nighter inside his tent, hammering out reports, rocking that extreme raccoon eye aesthetic. That would seriously make actual raccoons jelly. Lena rolled up and spilled all the tea to him. Most of the town guard were total NPCs and got completely slammed. The survivors were looking mad-washed, missing limbs left and right. And one poor dude deadass got eaten by a cyclops, while trying to flex and save his wife and kid. And then there was yours truly, the 6-year-old stray, who somehow pulled up from a building collapse, with nothing but some mild bruises and pure chaotic energy. Lena called me the least down bad of them all. Massive flex in a village full of traumatized amputees. I guess right after she ghosted, some guy named Egio materialized straight out of the shadows, like a ninja straight out of a corny action flick. All black tactical fit and a face mask. The absolute main character edge lord starter pack. Turns out those cyclopes weren't even moving on their own merit. They were being mined. Controlled by these things called foul giants. 3 of them total. These cursed beasts had magic eyes that could completely brainwash entire Cyclops tribes and warp their bodies with gross, cursed tumors. The edgy assassin dropped the meta strategy to snipe them from afar. Which, no cap. No debate there, do not run down the massive monsters. Equipped with cursed mind control eyeballs. That just sounds like common sense to me. Morning finally hit. Those 3 bowls of porridge from the previous night had totally worked wonders, and my tiny little body was actually feeling low-key operational. I splashed some cold water on my face and checked my reflection. Some black-haired kid who looked about 70% like my old self, and 30% like an absolute native to this realm. Such a weird vibe, literally like running your own face through one of those random ethnicity swap filters. The dead orphan's core memories started streaming in, like some emotional movie trailer playing in my sleep. Parents getting wiped out by monsters, and wandering this wasteland all by myself forever. Just a 6-year-old with a tragic lore background officially unlocked. Then the aroma of rice caught me off guard, and my stomach let out a loud roar, like it had very strong opinions about breakfast. A big, jolly chef was dishing out grub to the soldiers, and when he spotted me standing there looking utterly miserable, he waved me over with the pure, positive energy of a cafeteria angel, literally radiating with that weird, glowing white aura, acting like a certified chubby saint of carbohydrates. The military breakfast spread was actually hitting pretty solid. Vegetable porridge that tasted surprisingly decent. Not bad at all, alongside a brick of black bread. That basically tasted like chewing on an old shoe. Though hey, it got the job done, plus salted dried meat stew, which was genuinely elite by medieval standards. Along with 2 steamed purple carrots. Yeah, purple. I almost didn't even recognize the things. Apparently vitamins come in artificial grape flavoring out here. A side dish of pickled mustard greens. Salty, crunchy, and packed with flavor. Honestly, the ultimate MVP of the entire meal. And last up, goat cheese. 1 tiny block of pure, unadulterated biological warfare. The stench hit my nose like an absolute vengeful poltergeist, reminding me how badly modern food back in my old life had spoiled me rotten. And this piece of funky biohazard was my absolute breaking point. Too tiny to send back way, too nasty to swallow, too wasteful to just toss in the trash. The ultimate vibe check while I sat there, holding it at arm's length, and eyeing the crowd to see who I could pass this L to. A random hand swooped in, and straight up dropped it right back into my bowl. A heavy knuckle tapped my shoulder. Stop being picky, you won't survive the grind. On empty calories if you skip meals. Astega posted up beside me on a shattered boulder, dipped his dark loaf into the thick broth, and started eating like it was a Michelin star feast. Then he dropped his official credentials. Head honcho of the 6th Mobile Anti-Monster Division for the Duchy Defense Squad, meaning the heavy hitters you call when kaijus start squashing towns. Then came the heavy reality check. What's my next move? Option A. The state orphanage filled with other bro kids. Constant adult supervision. 3 meals and a roof sponsored by the kingdom tax. The catch: you owe every single coin back as an adult, unless you sign your life away to the military for a discount. Plus 0 freedom. Basically a bootleg boarding school meets financial prison. Option B. Drop me off in some random farming village. Here is a busted shack. Good luck, not starving to death. Maybe some tavern will hire you to scrub dishes. Way more freedom, way more isolation. You are totally on your own grind. Look inside my head, I'm low-key 25. The thought of getting locked in a room with actual kindergartners, playing tag, and getting tucked in at dusk made my spirit check out of my body all over again. Hard pass on that. A sleepy village full of farmers sounded way less chaotic. Learn to farm crops fly under the radar. Build a peaceful, low-key life. The city was a no-go too. Child labor scams and shady alleyway pickpockets are literally standard DLC in every dark fantasy trope ever made. Anime already spoiled that much for me. The awkward silence dragged on long enough. That Astega started second-guessing if making a toddler map out. His entire life path was kind of wild. Take your time, kid, he muttered. Standing up, no pressure. Option 2, the rural village, please. Commander, sir. He froze dead in his tracks and spun around, gawking at me like I just solved quantum physics on a dirty chalkboard. Wait for real, bro. You already locked in your choice. He burst out laughing loud and genuine, and planted his heavy palm right on top of my head, messing my hair into a bird's nest that matched his own disaster. Bet I respect that hustle. And drop the whole commander title. Just call me Mr. Astaga or Uncle. Whatever hits different. We are drafting up a war room strategy. So Lena is going to escort you down to a nearby settlement. She knows those grounds like the back of her hand. 2 nights, bro. More than enough time to get you set up and make the trip back. And hey, you've literally got 0 bags. So that makes things low-key simple. No baggage, no material possessions at all. No fam, no master plan, easy peasy. Strangely enough, as he walked away, this low-key, wholesome warmth crept right into my chest, which made 0 sense. I'd only known this absolute unit for like half a day, yet right here in a total ghost town, surrounded by pure grim Reaper vibes, wearing some fallen kid's skin in a universe packed with monsters, having even one person treat me like I actually mattered. Just hit different, Mr. Astega. Are we going to cross paths again? He paused, shooting a quick glance over his shoulder, with that weird, uncanny blend of peak hype and absolute depression. Maybe if we roll through your settlement, I might swing by to check on a certain little guy. And just like that, he ghosted that towering silhouette, fading out with all the main character energy of a classic anime mentor, living rent-free in my head, super optimistic yet low-key dealing with inner demons simultaneously, giving off major tough guy energy back home, who'd tear you a new one for jaywalking, then pull up and buy you a meal. I kept telling myself it was basically just a psychological trick. You know, when a random bro saves your life in a crisis, and your brain instantly goes, oh, damn, my ride or die bestie. Throw in that weird, glowing aura literally everyone seemed to flex, plus the sheer panic of being flying solo in a totally foreign realm, and boom, instant émotionnel, attache enrollment. Totally normal, totally facts, no cap. Not actual feelings, just basic survival psychology, right? Anyway, I finished up my morning meal in total silence, leaving the goat cheese right there on the tray for the chef to deal with. Definitely a skill issue for him now. I found some chill corner to sit down and deeply process the absolute circus fire my whole existence had turned into. 0 game plan, 0 bread, and absolutely 0 survival skills from medieval farming. Just a 25-year-old biology grad student nerd, stuck inside the tiny body of a malnourished 6-year-old munchkin, about to get dropped off in some random NPC village to fend for himself. At least Astia's squad scammed me out and officially verified. 0 dark magic signatures, 0 brainwashing spells. My background check is squeaky clean. Just a plain old orphan with a completely fake identity. And literally zero clue what the plot is bringing next. Fantastic, love that for me. Suddenly, someone poked me right in the spine with something rigid, while I was deep in my midday existential crisis. Bro, it was already noon, half the day totally wasted, just staring blankly into space. I spun around, and there she was, Lena, arms completely folded while gripping her sword scabbard, like she was seriously debating catching a body right then and there. Yo, Lena, sis, big bro, listen up. She looked around the same age as my actual past self, so addressing a young woman who shared my mental age. As big sister, using this squeaky little child voice felt like chewing on crushed glass. The word barely even made it past my teeth without dying. Just call me Lena, we're definitely not that tight. So don't force the cringe, freezing cold vibes only. Classic Lena, time to roll out. I'm dragging you to a village called Novice, and it's totally not right next door, so get a move on. We snagged a warhorse from the stable, and before my brain could even process what was going down, Lena grabbed the back of my shirt, acting just like a mama cat grabbing her kitten, slung me right into the saddle in front of her, spurred the horse, and we were ghosting out of there. My first time ever riding a horse in this life, and honestly, probably my last. And let me tell you, this wasn't some chill stroll through a meadow. This was an absolute unit of a warhorse, full-on sprinting down a sketchy dirt road. My insides were literally getting scrambled with every single bounce, and the crazy wind turned my already messy, total disaster hair into something that straight up qualified for a modern art museum. My tiny hands were death-gripping the iron ring on the saddle for dear life, because one single slip meant turning into roadkill. Eventually, the panic wore off and pure boredom took over. The path was just a plain dirt trail cutting through an endless, freaking dense forest. No other travelers. No landmarks, just straight-up trees. Gloomy shadows lurking in the woods. And the occasional bird getting super triggered by our thundering hoofbeats. Hours of this nonsense. So obviously, I try to start up a convo. Lena, what's the village even like? You'll see when we pull up. How much longer until we get there? Tomorrow at noon. What's for dinner? No clue, shut up. Oh, my bad. Trying to chat with this chick was literally like trying to have a deep heart-to-heart with an iceberg. The rest of the afternoon dragged on in agonizing silence. My legs went completely dead, and my papa was filing a formal grievance. The sunset was painting the sky in gorgeous, aesthetic oranges and reds, but did I care? Hell no. I was way too busy squirming all over the place, trying to find a single angle. That didn't make me want to cry. Stop moving. We'll rest once we're out of the woods. Thanks, Lena. You're a real lifesaver. Finally, the trees parted ways, and we burst out into a massive open plain. Stunning early spring grasslands stretching as far as the eye can see, with a chill little stream winding through, everything glowing in that gorgeous golden-orange sunset vibe. So peaceful, so pretty, the exact kind of fantasy world. Landscape that belongs on a 4K desktop wallpaper. Now, this is the real Isekai'd experience. Those corpses and ruins were just a trash opening tutorial level. And this right here was the actual. Lena's hand suddenly slammed my head down, pressing it flat against the horse's back, while her entire body hovered right over mine. An arrow whistled right past us, literally slicing through where my skull had been half a second ago. Then came the laughter, piercing, toxic like nails on a chalkboard, cackling away from somewhere up ahead. Everything went down in a split second. Lena drew her glowing sword with a sharp metallic gleam, leaped right off the horse, and started spamming her abilities, like she was literally speedrunning. An elite boss fight. Sticky technique, soit fluish. Calm is ordering coffee, body barrier. A soft luminescence hugged her steel blade. The sword shifted into a pale gold. By the time I managed to whip my head toward the ambushers, too hideous. Green domes were already flying through the air, leaving streams of blood in their wake. Their headless carcasses slumped off their mounts and crashed to the dirt. One more shadow shrieked and sprinted for the trees. Lena effortlessly flicked her sword and skewered the fourth, without even looking total elapsed time. Maybe 4 seconds, I was still processing the arrow. That nearly gave me a brand new breathing hole. Carefully swinging both legs over to one side, I gauged the drop to the ground, let go and fell landing straight on my backside. Main character energy, as always. Waddled over on my aching legs to check out the bodies. Emerald skin, pointy ears. Crimson eyes, ratty loincloths instead of actual drip. A few sad, greasy hairs sprouting from the scalp, like a poorly shaved pork rind. Their faces were locked in a permanent expression. A snarl that screamed major skill issue goblins. Actual goblins. Riding what turned out to be oversized wild boars. My stomach did a nervous flip, but at this point, I was totally building up an immunity to fantasy. Trauma. Lena was wiping her sword on the dead boar's fur, with the exact vibe of someone, scraping dog crap off their sneakers. Then, she pulled a dagger from her belt and tossed it right at me. Since you're down there, stop being useless. Carve some meat off that thing. Dinner is served. The dagger was gorgeous. A flash of cold steel as I unholstered it. A cinematic moment, where a genuinely cool protagonist would drop a line, like Sweetblade. I peeked at Lena's stone-cold stare, and immediately canceled that dumb thought. The boar was basically a giant mud-cake. Toxic-smelling pig slicing it open was an ordeal. Blood everywhere, guts in full high-def color. The stench was an absolute war crime. I kept my trap shut and breathed, purely out of spite, despite having zero butchering experience in my entire life. Across 2 lifetimes, I managed to hack off a few rib chunks, with some meat attached. My outfit looked like I had lost a brutal fight, with a bucket of red paint. Lena stuffed the dripping meat into some leather pouch, walked us to the stream, and pointed into the shadowy distance. Throw those toxic clothes away. Scrub that blood stench off in the creek. I'm setting up camp on the opposite bank. Hurry up and come get your change of clothes. And then she rode off with the horse, leaving me stranded in the dark, on a field where goblins just tried to smoke us. Stripped down in record speed, tied my bloody rags around a rock, tossed them straight into the abyss, and stood there rocking nothing but my skivvies, while the chilly night breeze made every inch of my skin scream. That spring nights hit different. The stream water was straight up freezing. Completely covered in goosebumps, I scrubbed like my life depended on it. Low-key. Hardly any blood had actually soaked past my outer layers, but leaving any trace of a scent for late-night predators. Felt like a major L for survival strategy. Then a campfire flickered to life on the opposite bank, and I bolted toward it, like a total moth drawn to a porch light at midnight. Right then and there, I totally got why my middle school history teacher always preached that discovering fire was mankind's absolute biggest W. Standing half-naked in monster-infested woods after dark will really give you that kind of clarity. Lena tossed me a spare change of clothes. Even that scratchy fabric felt like high-end cashmere. After sprinting around practically naked in the pitch black, she had already set up a pretty sweet little setup. Meat on a makeshift branch rack dangling right over the flame. Carefully turning it over, and shaking out precious grains of salt from a tiny pouch. The way she delicately pinched out those microcrystals it showed me. Salt was basically liquid gold out here. The army's tiny jar of pickled veggies suddenly made way more economic sense. Those wild boar ribs were looking absolutely bussin'. A gorgeous golden brown, evenly roasted with 0 burnt spots. No raw pink anywhere. Lena actually had serious skills. The flavor, though, was a whole different story. 0 oil, no extra fat, no garlic, no ginger, and definitely no cooking wine. No seasonings at all, besides a tiny hint of salt on meat that was inherently wild, pungent, and aggressively gamey. Yet Lena was devouring it with the closest thing to true joy I'd seen on her face since we met. Turns out military protocol strictly banned hunting while on the march. If one soldier snagged fresh meat while others got nothing, everyone would start going rogue, and chain of command would totally fall apart. Solo operations were literally her only shot at eating something that wasn't cardboard dry, jerky, or depressing gruel. So this was her ultimate cheat meal. Chewing through that tough, stringy wild game. All my brain could fixate on was kicking back outside at Lou's Cat Cafe, grilling skewers, chugging cold beer, and venting about life with my college bestie. That felt like a lifetime ago now, and honestly, it probably was. After dinner, Lena poked the embers to keep the fire going, set 2 flasks of water near the hot stones to warm up, and that was literally it. No self-service, no video games, no screens, Zero things to do. Just sitting by a campfire in the middle of nowhere, wrapped in a flimsy shirt and staring blankly at the flames. I actually found myself missing my lab setup. Test tubes, I am so sorry I ever cursed your very existence. Boredom wins again. Hey Lena, those crazy powers you busted out when you took down those goblins. Was that actual magic? What about it? Well, honestly, how should I put this? It low-key felt kind of basic. Yeah, literally. I was totally expecting something way more flashy. She totally read my mind before I could even finish my sentence. Apparently, every kid witnessing their first actual brawl always has the same vibe. Where are the sick explosions? Where's the massive fireball? Why doesn't it look like the epic stuff from the lore? But the grub had put her in a surprisingly chill mood. And maybe she figured a soon-to-be solo orphan could use some basic world-building knowledge. Because for once, she actually kept spilling instead of shutting me down. Magic isn't meant to look pretty. It's supposed to take targets out efficiently, or keep people alive against goblins. I don't even need complex spells. What I pulled off were just low-tier tricks. Pure precautions. Looking aesthetic is for amateurs. If you ever get the chance to watch a real archmage cast a spell, then you'll finally understand how cracked magic can actually be. Chilling by the campfire, chewing on terrible boar meat, getting a magical lecture from a woman with the emotional range of a brick wall. This was my new reality, and honestly, compared to yesterday's pile of flattened corpses and that gross goat cheese, it was a massive upgrade. Tricks, those glowing vibes on your body and blade, were just tricks. I rolled over toward Lena, putting on my absolute best wide-eyed, curious student face. Years of relentlessly kissing up to my thesis advisor made this expression pure second nature. Turns out magic in this universe runs on a strict tier system. Spell scale, all the way from 1 to 13 rings. Ring 0 doesn't even count as real magic. It's basically the tutorial level known as cantrips. The exact stuff Lena used against the goblins. Sticky technique, body barrier. Metal edge, all ring 0. Absolute baby moves. The magical equivalent of learning how to tie your own shoelaces. My face must have looked like a kid, staring right into a candy store because she immediately dashed cold water all over my dreams. If you had gone through the orphanage, kids with actual magic talent get sent to a magic academy at the proper age. The government literally covers the bill until you're an adult. Regular families can send their kids too, but someone's got to cough up the tuition. You're completely broke with zero cash, so good luck dealing with that. Maybe dropping out wasn't such a genius move after all. Wait, could I? Maybe not, still no. Ostiga explicitly told you to think it through. We rode horses for a whole day. You really want to flip sides now? Hell no. Okay, fine. I was just testing the waters. Deep down, a 25-year-old guy crashing in a children's shelter, getting tucked in tight at bedtime, still sounded way worse than being broke. My ego definitely had limits, even in a fantasy realm. Besides, if both orphans and commoners could pull off attending magic school, that kind of info couldn't be that hard to dig up later. Anyhow, you're way too young for Magic Academy right now. So stop overthinking it, and just like that, she shut down my follow-up question before it left my mouth peak Lena behavior, shutting down what I was about to say and completely locking it down. The sky went pitch black, honestly. It was way earlier than those late night grinds pulling all-nighters back at the lab, but a full afternoon of horse-riding back pain, plus pure mental exhaustion had fried my brain completely. I crashed on the soft grass next to the campfire and knocked out almost immediately. What I had no clue about and only pieced together later was that Lena took off her cloak, threw it over my sleeping self, grabbed her sword and stepped out into the dark. Because apparently, nighttime in this realm gets kind of wild. Wolves, an entire pack of forest wolves, came creeping toward our campsite with eerie, glowing green eyes. Lena had this passive detection spell active, named Mana Alert, essentially a magical motion detector that pings whenever a living entity steps into the area. She'd been running it the whole time, like low-key background music. She cast beast eyes to see through the pitch black, then metal body to turn herself into an absolute human tank, and straight up started rocking the entire wolf pack, using only her scabbard, not even pulling the blade. Just a sheath, she bonked the first wolf on the head, like she was disciplining an unruly puppy, dodged another mid-air, and smacked it right in the gut with the flat side. The wolves tried surrounding her. Coming in from every direction, she poked, sliced, and swept them away like she was playing whack-a-mole. The alpha wolf tried to play smart, faking moves while eyeing me as an easy target. Lena caught on parried its lunge. Whisper get lost. And Bicycle kicked it in the face so hard, it went flying sideways into a tree. The pack dragged their knocked-out leader away, whining pathetically, and vanished into the woods. No blood, no bodies left behind. Just flattened grass as Lena strolled back to camp. Stretched her arms, leaned against a massive rock, hugged her sword, and went right back to sleep. All of this went down while I was snoring 10 feet away. My bodyguard was a whole one-woman army, and I totally slept through her absolute highlight reel. Morning rolled around with someone shaking me awake. Dawn was painting everything in gold, and the endless plains stretched out in a way that made every skyscraper I'd ever laid eyes on look totally basic. Slapped my own face to wake myself up, stretched out, and realized sleeping straight on the ground hadn't left me sore at all. This orphan body came pre-built with hardcore, homeless camping resistance. Finally, an actual W. Breakfast was leftover boar meat, stuffed inside warm black bread, washed down with some lukewarm water. Absolute peak medieval Yelp review vibes right here. Would not recommend, because Lena totally snuffed out that campfire, scattered the coals, doused it completely, and buried every last ash, which low-key told me she was either mega responsible or totally unhinged and paranoid. Honestly, though, both are major W traits for a bodyguard. Jumping right back in the saddle, the plains were totally dead flat and fast. Zero drama. Just a couple of random black specks moving way off in the distance. Could have been wild beasts or straight-up monsters, or tax collectors way too far to tell for sure. We cruised across the grassy fields, scaled some rolling green hills, and eventually hit an actual legitimate road, complete with real wagon tracks. Civilization was finally coming up ahead. Gothic-style spiky rooftops were just poking up past the horizon. Maybe a town or a full-on city. But Lena suddenly yanked the reins hard and pivoted us in the opposite direction, straight toward a massive mountain range. The scenery did a complete 180 right there. We dropped into a basin totally walled in by peaks. Everything was just glowing with vivid spring green. Thick moss blanketed the cliffs like Mother Nature's custom wallpaper. The valley was super lively and lush, and smelled like actual fresh dirt and living plants, instead of old blood and burnt goblin stinks. We skirted right around the foot of the mountains, and then wisps of smoke started curling up behind the trees. That cozy countryside cooking scent drifted over with soil plants and would smoke, would fire. My shoulders instantly dropped about 3 inches. For the first time in 2 whole days, the underlying stress totally melted away in the back of my brain. I could practically hear chill acoustic tunes playing in the background. Lena crested a small rise, and boom, there it was. Novice Village, proudly named after the Novice Mountains, because the founding pioneers had zero imagination whatsoever. About 20-something houses, clustered around a crystal-clear lake that mirrored the sky like an HD glass screen. Farm plots mapped out in super neat rectangles. Dark dirt freshly plowed up, but not seeded yet. Spring farming season was right around the corner. A paved stone lane ran straight east and west, hooking the settlement up to the mountain trails. We trotted down the quiet village street. Nobody was outside, wandering around. Everybody was totally slammed, getting ready for crop season. We rolled past a stone building, with heavy metallic clanging echoing from inside. Probably the local blacksmith spot. This whole place gave off major starter town in an RPG energy. And honestly, I was totally obsessed with it. The horse pulled up right in front of the flexiest building in the whole town. Flexi by village standards meant the timber logs had their rough bark stripped off to flaunt smooth brown wood underneath the structure, looking thick and sturdy built. And the windows had actual glass panes. Clean, glossy glass that literally gleamed in the sunlight. For a guy who literally just spent 2 days sleeping on dirt and chewing on gamey wild boar meat off a stick, this place looked like a 5-star luxury hotel. Lena lifted me right off the horse's back and shoved open the front door, and cozy heat from a fireplace hit us like a warm embrace. Inside, wooden tables and chairs were lined up neatly. A front desk steps leading to a second level. a bulletin board packed with flyers, and a young woman rocking a simple, yet spotless made outfit sweeping the floor. A bell chimed as we stepped inside. She glanced up shook. Visitors this early, what's up? How can I help you? Lena flashed some kind of military ID from beneath her armor and handed it right over. Name's Lena, City Defense Forces. I need a word with your village chief. Please let him know. The girl took the card, dropped her cleaning rag, zipped upstairs, zoomed back down, and curtsied, ma'am. The village chief says you're good to head up. We trailed her down a second-story hallway to the very last door and knocked. A weathered, aged voice called out, "Come in." The room was minimalist and clean. A sofa, cabinet, desk, and chair, absolutely nothing extra. The guy sitting there had long white hair, slicked back, a beard cascading down to his chest, cloudy eyes, and deep wrinkles etched into his face, like they were carved by a chisel. Every single line told a story. Back in grad school, I knew professors exactly like this. Geology researchers who spent decades doing fieldwork out in the wild. Faces beaten by the sun and harsh winds, until they looked like living topographic maps. This village chief gave off that exact same vibe. Not the puffy, pampered wrinkles of some rich guy who slathers on moisturizer. These were the real deal, earned one brutal storm at a time. And just like literally everyone else in this realm, he was surrounded by that faint, mysterious white aura. I was still standing right there squinting at him, trying to figure out what that glow even meant, when the old man flashed a smile and pointed toward the seats. What an absolute honor to host you. Miss Lena, please take a seat. We're just a humble little settlement out here. No need to stand on ceremony. Lena didn't waste any time with small talk. She sat down on the sofa, took the tea offered by the receptionist girl, and got straight down to business. But before tackling my whole situation, she asked about a guy named Asha. Turns out, he was a retired soldier from the City Defense Forces, now living in this village as an elite tier hunter, helping keep the monsters at bay. Talk about a small world, or small fantasy world, I guess. Then came the part where my future got negotiated. Like a sketchy used car deal, this kid's name is Cozy, whom I rescued 2 days ago, a former street orphan. We're not really running a charity organization here, but since we tracked him down, our commander wants to drop him off here. Is that cool with you? The village chief nodded slowly. Before dropping the question I was dreading the most. He's pretty young. Wouldn't an orphanage make more sense? Translation, what's actually wrong with this kid? They are dumping him in our village, instead of a proper facility. Is this kid a total menace? 'Cause our plate is already way too full. My stomach dropped, but Lena totally saw right through it. He chose this life, and we're strictly military. We don't got time to babysit random orphans for the long haul. There's no sketchy catch. He's quiet and normal. Maybe just a bit shook up, and if he starts acting up. She paused. Feel free to yeet him out and let him figure it out. Hold up, my inner adult was literally screaming. Sure, I wasn't trying to stir up any drama, but hearing your ride or die escort casually suggest, just ghost him in the wild if he gets annoying, wasn't exactly the wholesome farewell speech I was hoping for. But what could I do? It is what it is. I slumped my shoulders and leaned into the helpless orphan vibe. The chief scanned my face like he was reading a palm, stroked his long white beard, and let out a heavy sigh. All right, poor kiddo. You can crash here. Lena stood right up, handed over 2 silver coins as some settlement cash, and rattled off a bunch of rules. Basically feed him, give him a bed, make him hustle. Don't spoil him rotten, and headed for the exit. And that's when it hit me hard. Not the sweet relief of scoring a roof. The actual leaving part. Lena was walking away. The absolute last link to the life I had been rolling with for the past 2 days. Before this, there was Astaga, and before him, the squad before them, a totally different universe. Different body, different everything. And now that final thread was about to snap. It gave me major post-college depression vibes. That hollow feeling when your besties scatter. Your professor waves a casual bye, and you're just sitting solo in an empty dorm room, wondering what the heck just happened. That exact emptiness was honestly why I became a grad student in the first place. I straight up couldn't handle the sting of goodbyes. And now world gone, family gone. Friends gone, the super chill commander gone. And the Ice Queen medic, who hauled me around like a bag of potatoes, threatened to roast me alive, slayed wolves while I was knocked out, and fed me trash tier-bore meat. She was about to bounce too. My hand started reaching out. Lynn. She froze, spun around, marched right back to the door where I was standing, and planted her palm right on top of my head. Survive and thrive people gotta grow up sometime. You gotta learn to roll with goodbyes and being lonely. Then she hopped on her horse and vanished before I could even blink. Dust clearing up on the trail. Mountain breeze hitting my face. Messy bangs blowing right out of my eyes. Only kids think they can conquer the world solo. Adults know way too, well, how much starting over hurts. In a totally unfamiliar place, the old chief's rough. Warm hand landed gently on my shoulder. After a long, heavy pause, all I could squeeze out was one exhausted old man sigh, coming from a super tiny body back upstairs couch. Face down, completely speechless. Well then, time to lock in and get this show on the road. The elder spoke softly. I go by Ostic, running this whole settlement. Though the locals are just generous enough to let me wear the crown. So feel free to call me Grandpa Village Chief. And I'm cozy, a cozy alliance. Barely 6 years old, tiny vibes, but trust me, I can pull off serious work. The lab environment had low-key built me different. One deep breath, flipping that internal mental switch. And time to lock in. My expression flipped from a total lost zoomer to a locked-in hustle kid. In about 2 seconds flat. The old-timer peeped it and was low-key catching a major sigh of relief. A full-blown crying. Tantrum troving brat. Would have been an absolute L for his senior citizens. You bounce back fast. How about a quick town tour? And just like that, we rolled out. Through the window, Ostic flexed how Novice was tucked into a cozy little valley, right on the edge of a massive mountain range. The surrounding woods were crawling with monsters and beasts, though mostly the chill, non-aggressive type. So adventurers used the village as their main checkpoint before hitting the peaks. Downstairs was basically giving low-key tavern vibes, a chill hangout spot for the locals, complete with a notice board, slapped with side quests and the latest capital T. Literally the ultimate RPG starter village aesthetic. This is Vinette, he stated, pointing to the maid uniform girl from earlier. She runs guest services, deep cleans, and handles the upstairs laundry. It genuinely felt like getting a campus tour by my thesis advisor all over again. I dropped a super awkward little bow. Nice to meet you, Big Sis Vinette. Hey there, little Kozia. If you ever need a hookup with anything, just slide through and find me. Finally, a W human being secured on my W's only list. Right off the bat. Next stop, that brick building dropping all those loud banging sounds. The chief shoved open the heavy timber doors, and a straight-up wall of heat slapped my face. Owen, you busy old legend. Finally out for your morning jog. A booming voice echoed from inside. Asha asked me to craft some heavy trap clamps. It's an absolute oven in here. Wait outside. I'm literally almost done. A massive, buffed out, sweaty unit of a man walked out, wiping his neck down with a towel. He caught sight of me and froze. Chief, where'd you pull this kid from? This is Kozia. His hometown got completely wiped out by monsters. The city defense squad dropped him off with us. Got any grunt work for him down at the forge? The blacksmith reached down and slammed his hand onto my shoulder, with the sheer surface area of a dinner plate. Why does literally every adult in this universe communicate? Strictly via shoulder violence? Kid, you're literally skin and bones. Blacksmithing requires real muscle. You probably can't even lift a starter hammer. He's 6, Irwin. Just check if you have any random odd jobs. He chose rural life over hitting the orphanage. Wants to grind for his own bread. Pretty base choice, right? Got true grit. Anyone willing to put in work ain't gonna starve here. Cue another brutal backslap. That literally scared the absolute living daylights out of me. For the 3rd time this week. The deal. I'd pump the bellows and keep his furnace roaring. 3 copper cups a day, no work means no pay. And if the heat got way too intense, I could peace out whenever. I had zero clue what this dough was actually worth, but I just nodded along like a total pro anyway. Fake it till you make it, don't call me Mr. Kid. That's what those cringe nobles in town always do. Just call me Uncle. He wound up for another heavy slap, and I ducked out of the way, bowing rapidly, while retreating behind the chief like a human shield. Irwin chuckled, and my spine thanked me profusely. As we walked over to our next stop, the chief gave me a low-key heads-up. The person we're about to visit has a bit of a difficult personality if she drops some savage lines. Don't take it personally, yo. I already had a bad feeling about this. We paused at a cozy little cottage, featuring a fenced herb patch outside, stuffed with super sketchy plants. The chief knocked, but got zero response. He raised his voice, Madison. Madison, are you even home? I need to chat with you. I'm right here. I'm right here. Stop screaming your head off. You stinky old geezer, I've told you 1,000,000 times. Just knock. What if I'm at a crucial stage of a brew? And your yelling ruins the whole batch. I watched the chief's face instantly melt into pure awkwardness. I bit down hard on my lips to keep from bursting out. The door swung open to show a hunched old lady, with salt and pepper hair tied in a messy bun, tiny glasses perched right on her nose, and a glare that could turn fresh milk sour instantly. Now then, Ostic. What do you want this time? She spotted me and froze dead in her tracks, her eyes narrowing behind those tiny specks. Is this the new apprentice? You dug up for me, they just keep getting worse. At least the last guy actually knew basic herbology. This kid looks barely old enough to spell his own name. That sharp-cutting, ice-cold voice hit me like a bolt of lightning, and not because it sounded foreign to me. Oh no. I knew this exact species by heart. She was basically the senior professor, the veteran with 40 solid years under her belt, who treated academic suffering like an extreme sport, the kind who could pick apart a project 10,000 ways, even when you followed her instructions to the letter, the kind whose brutal logic was so insanely airtight that even your own department head would just sweat and agree. My old university had at least 3 of these bosses. I was getting major PTSD flashbacks. Madison, please. He's just a kid. You literally just called him a kid. Her voice went up an entire octave, her glasses flashing menacingly. I'm over here dealing with actual patients, brewing potions and running deep research. I've got 1,000,000 things on my plate, and you expect me to babysit. And boom, there, it was the grumpy genius mentor trope. Right on schedule, every single fantasy world has one. Every grad student has low-key survived one. Lucky for me, years of academic warfare had handed me the ultimate playbook for this exact boss fight. Not yet too early to unleash the big brain moves. For now, let's keep it basic. I put on my most sincere, most innocent, most aggressively cute face and dropped the line. Grandma Madison, hey there. Listen, I'm a fast learner, super smart, and totally obedient. I promise I won't be SUS or cause any drama. Wide eyes, small voice maxed out. Please adopt me energy right here. The thesis defense of my entire run, and I was literally 6 years old, pharmacy is a hardcore discipline. I need a cracked apprentice, not a toddler who's going to slow my grind. Austin, maybe he's compliant. Maybe he'll actually be useful down the road. But at this age, go find someone else. Madison was already slamming the door shut when I lunged forward and hit her with the deepest bow my tiny body could possibly pull off. Grandma Madison, I don't want to be dead weight either, but I totally want to earn my keep in this world. You don't got an apprentice right now anyway. Before you find the right match, just give me one shot to prove I can at least handle the grunt work. Was it emotional manipulation? Absolutely. Was it a shameless guilt trip, disguised in a puppy dog voice? For sure did I care. Not even a single bit. Survival in an ice sky requires zero ego and flexible morals. The awkward silence dragged on forever. Wind howling, birds chirping. My forehead glued straight to the dirt. Then I'm fine. Prove it then. She didn't shut the entrance. Instead, she flicked her wrist, and 2 heavy tomes drifted off an inner shelf, floated right through the doorway, and hovered right in front of my face, floating like actual magic telekinesis style. Just casually, no big deal whatsoever. Apparently this one is continental language translation. You can't even read yet. So you're completely useless until you fix that plot hole. The other is Introduction to Herbology. I don't expect you to memorize every single complex derivative name, but every standard term and all its pharmacological traits better be locked in your brain, no excuses. Pharmacy is serious business. Human lives depend on absolute accuracy. I'm way too busy to hold your hand or answer basic questions. Ask whoever you want, use whatever method you vibe with. Just master both of these books. When you're actually ready, come face my test. You get one single attempt fail, and don't even bother showing your face here again. Door shut with a crisp click. The chief and I just stood there locked eyes, like 2 random NPCs who barely survived a disaster zone. Well, get up, little dude, Austin. Help me straighten up. Madison's standards are ridiculously high. What she just threw at you is already way tougher than what she'll actually grade you on. If you're not totally locked in and confident, it's honestly better not to bother her. I totally clammed up and kept my trap shut. The broke orphan body I was stuck with was straight up illiterate. trying to learn a brand new alphabet from scratch, plus cramming hardcore herbology terminology out of nowhere, in a world with zero Google, Wikipedia, or Quizlet apps, with only one shot at passing the exam. Bit, talk about zero pressure, fam. Right after that, the chief gave me a grand tour of the rest of the hood, introduced me to some peasants grinding away in the fields, showed me the basic map layout, nothing too sus or crazy. Then we finally hit up a beat-up little shack, squished right into the corner of the settlement. Some woodworker used to crash here, ghosted for the big city 2 years back. His building skills were low-key decent, so the foundation is still totally sturdy inside. Might be a bit messy, but it's totally busts in. Grandpa Chief, having a roof over my head is W enough. I'll scrub this place down myself. He tossed me the 2 silver coins Lena left behind, and pointed me toward the general store to grab some gear. Except the shopkeeper, a dude literally named Clutter, had rolled out to town to restock inventory, and might not roll back for days, since he was probably out getting totally wasted. Classic. Vanet tried to ride to the rescue and help me clean, but I curved her with the classic. I need to be a main character independent excuse. She looked a tiny bit pressed, but handed over a spare set of sheets anyway, flashing a sweet smile back at my brand new crib. I shoved the door wide open, and a massive cloud of dust slapped me right in the face, acting like a welcoming committee straight from the underworld. Spider webs were everywhere, and the furniture lineup consisted of 1 brick fireplace, 1 bed, 1 desk/workbench rigged with tool hooks and drawers, a tiny ceramic saucer for holding candles, a window plugged up with rotting rags stuffed in the gaps that were basically disintegrating, and that was literally it. That was the whole estate. I tied a cloth around my face like an absolute bandit, gripped the borrowed broom, and declared all-out war. 8-legged freaks are seriously the biggest L in any universe. Every single web got obliterated. Every corner got torched with literal fire, and then sealed tight with mud. Every speck of mold and moss got scraped off the walls. The fireplace got reignited as I foraged for dry twigs outside to feed the flames. By the time I finally wrapped it up, the joint actually looked livable. Not aesthetic, not modern tech, but totally livable, so I face-planted right down onto the freshly made mattress. The gray floral bedding low-key smelled like fresh sunshine, and Vanet's pure, wholesome energy. Absolute peak comfort. Meanwhile, and I totally had zero clue about this at the time, back at the demolished town, Commander Astaga was leading the 6th Squad straight into the meta, against the Cyclops base camp. Priests were casting glowing runes, popping buffs straight out of a high-budget fantasy flick, while the Rangers rained down arrows straight through giant eyeballs. With surgical precision, Astaga himself swung his fancy flame guard sword and launched a massive, cross-shaped energy slash into the camp. And the assassin Egio had already silently decapitated all 3 foul giants before the charge even began. The whole operation took probably minutes. These people were terrifyingly efficient, but I didn't know any of that. I was busy having a moment, stepped outside my clean little house, and watched the sunset paint the lake gold. Smoke from village chimneys drifted upward and dissolved into the glowing sky. Unknown birds drew musical lines across the air, and something slipped out of my mouth. An ancient Chinese poem about scattered clouds, and a river still as silk, about noisy birds on spring islands, and flowers covering meadows. Words from a world, in a time so far removed from where I stood, that they felt like someone else's memory. Hey, cozy eye. All settled in What Are You Mumbling? Some bard song. Erwin the blacksmith appeared on the path, caught me staring at the lake. With the expression of a philosophy major. Having a crisis, he crouched down, arm on my shoulder gently this time. Miracle of miracles, pretty. Isn't it years ago when monsters attacked my home? My wife and I fled here. She fell in love with this view at first sight. She passed away later from illness. But whenever I see this blue lake, it's like looking into her eyes, and I hear her nagging me. He paused softly. Don't miss the stars when you lose the sun. Before I could process that emotional sucker punch, he grabbed me by the waist, swung me up onto his shoulders, and started marching toward the tavern. Come on, everyone heard there's a new kid in the village. They knocked off work early to throw you a welcome party. The tavern was unrecognizable this morning. It was a quiet, clean little inn. Now, 20-something villagers crammed inside drinking, shouting, slamming cups on tables, practically shaking the roof off its nails. Erwin took one look at the chaos, set me down, and bellowed, "Hey, why? You jerks promised to wait for me to bring the kid back. You started drinking without his cook. Cook, you saved me some right." The chef emerged from the kitchen, carrying a platter of roasted wild chicken, spotted us, and shrugged helplessly. "They're over there, ask me one more time, and there really won't be any left. You animals saved me a sip." And just like that, the blacksmith abandoned me in the middle of the room and charged into the mob of drinkers. Like a man possessed, he grabbed someone's cup, slammed it down, and started bitching. "Why is it this trash sage wine again? This stuff is literally just juice. Tonight's supposed to be my welcome party. Bring out the good shit, shut up, and be grateful." Cook clapped back, marching right up to me, carrying a tray, a glass of apple juice, and half a roasted wild chicken, totally decked out in rosemary and parsley. The bird had been glazed with honey and garlic ahead of time. The skin was golden perfection and insanely crispy. Steam was pouring off the juicy meat, giving off the most insane aroma. After yesterday's absolute war crime of goat cheese, and this morning's weird gamey boar, this looked straight out of a Michelin star spot. My mouth was watering so hard I almost drooled on the desk. Eat up, kid. There's plenty of these alcoholics only care about booze. Even cheap sage, wine hits different for them than food. Thank a lot, Uncle Cook. Uncle, am I really that old? Already he ripped off his chef's bandana, running his hand through his surprisingly thick hair, low-key stressing about getting older. "You totally are." Erwin popped up out of nowhere behind him, throwing an arm over Cook's shoulder and sliding him a drink. Then he slammed the table to grab attention. "Listen up, everyone. Y'all forgot tonight's guest of honor, sitting right over here all by himself. What kind of weak welcome party is this?" The whole tavern went dead silent. All eyes shifted to me. Even the chief and Vinette were grinning, behind the counter holding apple juice. Erwin hoisted his cup and paused for a second, clearly cooking up something super deep in his head. Then just screamed cheers. The entire room burst out laughing. "Bro, we thought you were going to drop a whole speech. Why did you even waste time with that dramatic pause?" Erwin's face turned completely tomato red. He bounced back in like 2 seconds flat, though. "This kid is chill as hell, and he's got serious nerve. He's part of the squad. Now, let's welcome him. Cheers. Cheers to Cozy, whatever his name is." And then came the round of intros. Erwin dragged me around from table to table. "This is Annie Harris, her turnips are totally goat. This is every single one of them, glowing with that mysterious, soft white light, and literally all of them genuinely vibe checking with insane warmth." Then Erwin pointed at a tall, quiet dude wearing a beast fur cloak, rocking black curly hair, piercing eyes, and a necklace made out of animal teeth. He looked like he could fist fight a bear and win, but was just sitting there totally chill. "That's Asha, the legendary hunter. Tonight's chicken. He went out and hunted it specifically for you. My eyes got huge. Thank you so much, Mr. Asharo. And Lena says hi and thanks you too. Good kid." Asha ruffled my hair gently and gave my back a soft pat. "Unlike certain toxic blacksmiths. Man, you're way too scrawny, that ain't it, chief? If you're ever down to hit the woods, pull up on me." Then somebody over in the corner straight up started belting off key, with zero rhythm whatsoever. And somehow, low-key, it was the most aesthetic vibes I caught since dropping into this realm. The whole tavern locked in, chanting an old-school ballad about ancient woods and glowing creeks, cobblestone paths whispering millennium-old lore, cozy shacks with wisps of smoke curling up, wizard staves throwing out pure light, golden wheat fields riding the breeze, pixies giggling, unicorns just roaming the thickets, moonlit rivers talking back to blinking stars. Every single person singing completely tone-deaf, clapping completely offbeat, straight up shouting the lyrics instead of hitting notes. I froze dead mid-chew on my chicken bone, because out of nowhere, I was right back on that rooftop with Lou, my college bro, both of us totally buzzes, flat on our backs, staring up at the cosmos. And he pointed straight up at the sky, slurring his words. "Yo, senior. I heard say, every single star up there is actually a whole different universe. Not just random planets and galaxies. Entire alternate realities, so if you could dimension hop, where'd you pull up to?" I raised my apple juice high in a room full of tone-deaf, radiant, amazing strangers, peeped out the window at a sky blanketed with stars that were almost, but not quite the exact same as the ones back home. This might actually be that faraway spot I'd always been hunting for. Morning in my brand new life kicked off with shoving random leaves into my pie hole. Not because I'd completely lost my marbles. These were specialized herbs acting like Mother Nature's toothbrush. Chew them down, spit it out, flush with water. Boom, sparkling oral hygiene. Medieval edition, zero minty freshness guaranteed. No fluoride protection whatsoever. Just the raw, unfiltered experience of being a broke peasant. My dentist back home would have had a full-on aneurysm. Grabbed a brick of black bread for breakfast and posted up in my little chair, reminiscing about last night's lit welcoming bash. Those villagers threw back drinks like their rent was due. That sage wine was apparently weak sauce. Basically flavored water, according to Irwin. But they totally made up for it with sheer volume. By the time it was over, every single drinker was KO'd all over the tavern floor, looking like an absolute war zone of pure intoxication. Even Annie Harris and the other ladies went drink for drink right alongside the guys, and passed out just as hard. The only sober survivors were Asha the hunter, who doesn't touch booze. Someone had to hold it down. The chief, way too old for that foolishness. And Vinette, who's way too wholesome for this wicked world. Those four ended up dragging every single passed-out villager back home. One by one, Asha letting out deep sighs, while Vinette kept a saint-level, patient smile on her face. Both of them holding it down before I headed out. The cook straight up dragged me right into the kitchen and shoved a basket stuffed with black bread into my hands, alongside a cup and a bowl, plus some candles and other essential gear. Look here, kiddo, you just rolled into town, and we didn't even have a proper welcome present ready. That absolute clown clutter still hasn't made it back from the city. So everyone chipped in and threw this care package together for you. I instinctively reached for my 2 silver coins, before the cook's hand slammed down on my head again, with that classic head pat. Seriously, every adult in this village communicates strictly through physical skull contact, and he waved the cash away. Keep your dough. This one's on all of us. Just don't expect free handouts to drop from the sky every day, capice? So I immediately went into full sneaky info-gathering mode, totally playing the helpless broke orphan who knows nothing about finance card trick, and casually milked the entire local economy breakdown out of the cook. Gold pieces, solar silver, and muni copper cups. 64 of the smaller ones equal a single coin of the tier above. A standard loaf of dark bread weighing roughly 300 grams. Costs a mere 2 copper cups. Quick mental math means my 2 silver coins could easily fund 32 days of pure carbs. Only problem is staying alive. Living strictly off dry bread would turn my already skeletal twig physique into an actual walking skeleton model. Obviously, the smarter play was to sponge off the cook and Asha as hard as humanly possible, while keeping my plausible deniability airtight. Uncle Cook, can I pitch around here? Nothing too crazy. Just rinsing veggies and scrubbing down the counters. No salary needed since everyone's been so insanely sweet to me. I just want to lend a hand. Honestly, it wasn't even the free labor offer that won him over. It was the wholesome gratitude, so he ruffled my hair yet again. Big surprise and greenlit the gig. Then I smoothly dropped the hint about wanting to pick up tracking and hunting from Asha. The cook hesitated, warning me that the surrounding woods are straight up lethal. But ultimately, figured a kid in my shoes desperately needed some survival street smarts, sooner rather than later. As for Asha himself, he looked totally unbothered when I brought the whole thing up. Turns out the village chief had already spilled all the tea to him beforehand, including the whole Lena backstory. Turns out she used to be his commanding squad captain back in the day. He took a nasty combat injury, shunned the cushy desk gig she tried setting up for him, and instead ghosted society to hunt in this sleepy little village. Honestly, what an absolute legend, totally my vibe. When Lena dropped me off here, she definitely orchestrated this so he'd keep tabs on me. Classic low-key Ice Queen move. Be at my spot the day after tomorrow morning. And that was literally his entire response. A whole one sentence. Before pivoting right back to hauling wasted villagers home. Spending years rolling in a squad with Lena had definitely infected him with her trademark communication style. These people literally dropped words, like they were being taxed per individual syllable. Meanwhile, the cook also dug out a cozy fur pelt from the very bottom of my basket and threw it around me like a makeshift blanket, since nobody had the time to tailor it into proper clothes. I literally looked like a lost cub, wandering out of an outdoor gear shop. The cook took one glance and completely lost it. My bad. Asha grabbed this for you earlier today. These mountains are still freezing. So bundle up, and that's how I strutted back, looking like a puffy fur ball. The next morning, figuring, Erwin and half the town were still KO'd from their wild sage wine binge. I decided to lock in and be productive. Popped open the 2 tomes Madison handed over and laid them flat across my desk. Continental language translation. Basically reading and writing for absolute beginners. Introduction to herbology. Essentially flora that won't flat out murder you, plus a few that will. Step 1, learn your ABCs all over again. Step 2, memorize a massive medical encyclopedia. Step 3, pass an insanely tough test on the first try. Administered by the most ruthless old lady alive. My mentor, the lovely Vanette, who was totally down to chill with me at the tavern bar and grind through the alphabet together. She grabbed my tiny hand, flipped open the text, and started from scratch. Phonetic sounds you pick up in no time. Years of brutal college-level academic trauma gave me a brain stamina that this 6-year-old vessel couldn't mask. I was soaking up this linguistic system like a sponge. And Vanette was radiating pure teacher pride. My gifted kid persona was getting way too convincing. Lunch was basic, yet surprisingly decent. Roasted parsnip sticks that looked like French fries and gave off an aroma like essential oils. Nut cheese spread over cabbage leaves. A major glow-up from that goat cheese war crime. Plus green pea soup loaded with smoked meat and onions. The cook's recipes were legit. Not 5-star dining, but for a remote village with scarce resources. And only 2 actual cooking methods, boiling or roasting. This was low-key impressive. I gathered from Vanette that the settlement was seasonal. During other parts of the year, adventurers rolled through constantly, heading deep into Nova's forest, on gathering quests, keeping the tavern packed. Winter was an absolute ghost town, freezing cold, with feral monsters getting aggressive. So nobody dared to brave the peaks. But spring had arrived and business was about to boom. I'll pitch in too. I shot my hand up like an eager grade schooler. Vanette flashed that signature sweet smile of hers. Well then, I appreciated in advance. Post-lunch, I lugged my books back home. The temperature was finally rising. Tiny buds were popping up all along the trail, giving off major spring vibes and fresh beginnings. And pure hope, which was nice. Except I still had to memorize a whole alien alphabet. An endless vocabulary dropped right back at my desk. Cracked the book open and stared down at those foreign runes. Why am I still haunted by flashcards in every single dimension? Like seriously, I died and got reincarnated into a fantasy universe. Ended up an orphan. Made it through cyclopes, goblins, and wolf attacks. And my ultimate villain was still flashcards. Some struggles just transcend dimensions. I glared down at the page, trying to literally laser beam the words into my brain. Through pure, unfiltered willpower, just staring, locking in, begging those symbols to make sense. Then something dripped right onto my head. A see-through, wobbly, jelly-like blob, hanging off my scalp and slowly drooping downward, looking like the world's most cursed lava lamp. What on earth is that? My blood ran ice cold. This is a universe packed with goblins and cyclopes. Random, sketchy, jiggly entities spawning on your head. Cannot be good news. Could be a slime monster. Or some parasitic, brain-eating alien. I didn't dare breathe, creeping one finger up super. Slowly to poke my head, nothing there. Zero physical mass, and then it just vanished. If there's anything more terrifying than a weird creature, just spawning on your head, it's that creature disappearing, leaving you with zero clue where it went. I whipped around, scanning every single inch of the room. Nothing. No intruder in sight. No slime trail. Absolutely zero evidence. Okay, let me lock in. What was I doing right before it showed up, right? Desperately trying to grind out this vocabulary. Focusing way too hard. Wishing the words would just download straight into my brain. Like a fast software update, back to the book. Maximum brain power. Totally desperate to absorb the lore. Splat, the jelly blob popped right back up, dangling from my scalp down onto the textbook page. And the second it touched the paper, Everything clicked into place. The vocabulary I hadn't even fully memorized yet suddenly felt permanently etched into my mind. Crystal clear, every single symbol, every pronunciation, every meaning just sitting there. Like I'd known the stuff my entire life. Wait, that thing came straight from me. The exact moment I got distracted thinking about it. The blob vanished again, classic. Time to test this out, shut my eyes and locked in. Visualizing what it's like to see without actually looking. I want to see what's on that book. I want to see what's on that book. And then with my eyelids squeezed tightly shut, I could literally see the book sitting on the desk. The basket next to it, one leg of the bed. Everything within a solid 1 meter radius. Rendered from every angle all at once. Like having hidden security cameras pointed inward. From every single point of sphere. Anything past that 1 meter was total pitch black. Flash my eyes open. That wild omnidirectional vision instantly vanished. Normal sight returned. I massaged my head, doing that exact same motion every adult in this village used to do to me, like it's a contagious habit. This power right here, it's basically divine sense. Straight out of those cultivation web novels, where overpowered martial artists project their spiritual aura outward to scout their entire surroundings and effortlessly memorize ancient jutsus. Pause for a sec. Except whose divine sense looks like a jiggly jello pudding. And this range is totally trash. 1 meter, I can barely skin past my own desk FR. Meanwhile, in some completely different dimension, this low-key omniscient white divine beast was just kicking back on a couch, ripping open a bag of chips, binge-watching TV like it was no big deal, bro. What do you want, a Ferrari? After accidentally unlocking my bootleg divine sense, I spent the rest of the day speedrunning the dictionary by slamming my smooth brain right onto each page. Actually absorbed like a quarter of the book before my skull started going wild. 2 confirmed power-ups so far. 1. Extending the transparent aura, shoving about 1 meter onto an object, and instantly downloading whatever data it's holding. Literally a built-in cheat code scanner for reading 2. Expanding it as a 1 meter sphere around me, and feeling everything inside in full detail. 360-degree surround vision. It's like having CCTV cameras set up inside my own personal bubble. Why did I even get this power? Best theory is I'm just built different. When a Chinese soul drops into a world with magic systems, it apparently auto-unlocks the veteran cultivation skill tree. Type shit passive ability shout out to 5,000 years of civilization. The timing couldn't be more immaculate. Right before Madison's impossible exam, though something was still living rent-free in my head. That weird white aura. I spotted on literally everyone since I got here. What was that about? I'll run tests later, though. Because right now, I had a date with a furnace. Headed over to Irwin's smithy, fully expecting to see him. Comatose from last night's bender. Now he was already up, stretching outside, looking entirely unfazed. Don't sleep on me, kid. My alcohol tolerance is unmatched. Never forget, a man who can't hold his drinks is never going to be a real blacksmith. Not sure about the logic there, Chief, but bet Uncle Irwin. Do your thing. He pointed out a blueprint on the wall. A long sort of main side quest for the next few days. My assignment, run the bellows. His assignment, literally everything else. Can I actually swing a hammer or anything? With these absolute noodle arms. Just vibe and learn what you can. Lesson 1, the fuel source. Not regular coal, some stuff called vortex coal. Rocking spiral grooves on the outside. And custom channels inside that somehow trap thermal energy. It soaked up heat while catching fire. Then slowly hit a locked-in temperature of 2,000 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to melt pretty much any non-magical ore. The furnace itself was built with high-end materials to withstand it, which explained why the whole room wasn't turning into an actual oven, even with a mini sun cooking inside. Unlike ordinary fires where the outer blaze is way hotter, we bury the raw materials right in the core, where the actual intense heat's at. That flashy surface flame is totally useless. All flex, zero substance. Is this a life lesson or a metallurgy class? Probably a bit of both. Irwin loaded up the vortex coal, tossed in some regular fuel and kindling, struck his flint and steel, and coaxed a sweet flame to life. Now, give those bellows a smooth pull. I grabbed the lever and shoved down. The pushback was no joke. This rig was definitely engineered for a jack dude. while I was rocking the upper body strength of a wet noodle. Every single rep felt like rowing a boat upstream. My whole body weight had to go into each pump. Leaning forward to push, leaning back to pull. Don't baby my bellows, kid. This piece of machinery is way tougher than you. Erwin grabbed the lever and aggressively slammed it back and forth, just to flex the proper technique. The fire inside instantly roared and swirled. Message received. I doubled my grind and my sweat output tripled. The room stayed pretty chill at first, since that vortex coal was soaking up all the thermal energy. Then slowly but surely, I started feeling it. A massive wave of scorching air, signaling the coal had finally hit ignition point and was now burning totally on its own. See, once this bad boy gets going, the temperature stays locked in, as long as you keep the airflow steady. Modern-day blacksmithing is honestly low-key foolproof. You really can't mess this up. So congrats, this is your official full-time gig from now on, sweet. My new job was literally destroying my body, operating a medieval air pump, living the absolute dream. While I slowly dissolved into a human-shaped puddle of sweat, Erwin got straight to work using long iron tongs to fish or chunks in and out of the embers, checking their color and texture every single time. Through my 1-meter divine sense radius, eyes closed with full 360-degree vision, I monitored the entire process in high definition and instantly ruined the whole vibe for myself because the way he kept dipping that or in and pulling it back out looked dead-ass like swishing beef tripe in a hot pot. 7 dips up, 8 dips down for that optimal chewiness. Once you see it, you literally can't unsee it. The majestic, high-tier art of fantasy forging, reduced to standard hot pot dining hacks. I violently shook my head to clear my mental cache, when the ore surfaces shifted from rough and jagged to smooth, round, and semi-molten. Erwin called the shot. He yanked them out and started hammering away. The opening strike sent sparks flying across the workshop, like a fireworks show, his massive silhouette backlit by the fierce furnace glow, with the hammer rising and dropping with absolute robotic precision. It was genuinely mesmerizing, like watching a maestro lead a grand orchestra. Except the orchestra was a slab of raw metal, and the baton was a heavy 5-kilogram hammer. He was humming under his breath, dropping a catchy little tune that matched his strike tempo. Ting, ting. Ding, ding. Sparks went wild and iron sang out loud. That crusty, loud-mouthed blacksmith, who was screaming about stolen wine last night, had totally turned into a vibe, like an absolute artist. A real smith's gotta trust his hammer, no cap. Learn to vibe with it. That hammer spills the tea on where the surface is sketchy, and where impurities are gatekeeping, where the structure's low-key weak and needs fixing. We heat and smash these ingots hundreds of times, deadass, weighing them after every single run. Once the weight stops dropping lower, all the trash impurities are officially gone. That's when you've got top-tier forging material, period. I just sat against the wall in total silence, peeking through my divine sense as the last chunk or piece dropped right into the container. I had been grinding at this for 4 straight hours. My arms had stopped being actual arms and turned into vaguely arm-shaped noodles. Pain receptors were like, "We're clocking out. Get any of that." Erwin suddenly crouched down low, grabbed my face with his suit-covered paws, and smeared black streaks all over my cheeks, looking like sick war paint. You catch what you just saw? I shook my head, totally understood. Though not completely. That's just level 1, baby. You got a long-ass journey ahead. Catch your breath, then get back on those bellows. These ingots need way more work, no cap. Back on the bellows. Truly the 3 most cursed words in any language. For more exhausting hours later, the sun was dipping low and I was a total puddle on the ground, literally flat out on my back, limbs sprawled out in every random direction, chest burning like crazy, sweat pooling into an actual pond under me. My physical body had filed a literal class action lawsuit against my brain for severe workplace abuse. Erwin dropped 3 copper coins right into my pocket and tossed me a towel. You gotta build some muscle, kid. Dry off before heading home. It gets freezing out at night. I dragged the towel over my body with the exact energy of a dying fish. Somehow stood up, rinsed out the towel, hung it to dry, and staggered, not toward home, but straight to the tavern cook. Took one look at my absolute zombie shuffle into the kitchen, and silently pulled out a stool for me. How was blacksmithing? It almost enlived me. Yet it's also low-key amazing. Erwin is an absolute beast when he locks in. I can't even describe it, haha. That's just who he is, completely locked in and pure. The cook handed me a big basin full of veggies. If you're too wiped out, just head home and crash. If you got any juice left, wash these and sort out the rotten ones. My hands were literally shaking. My back was screaming, and every single muscle was begging for mercy. But hey, this was just easy veggie sorting. Absolute easy mode compared to Bella's brutal duties. Plus, back at my old cat cafe, the boss had me doing prep work 24/7. So pure muscle memory instantly kicked in. As that evening rolled around, villagers started trickling into the tavern for their daily warm meals and cold drinks. The cook baked everything fresh every single day. Zero leftovers, no stale day old bread, right after washing vegetables. I started shifting gears to sift flour for tomorrow's batch. Medieval flour was low-key, full of trash. Pebbles sand bran flakes, random grass bits, all kinds of sketchy surprises. Zero industrial gear meant doing everything manually. Over and over, which was super tedious but totally crucial. Cook didn't make me strain out every single bit of bran, though. This was peasant bread, not some fancy royal pastry. That dark heavy bran stayed right in. The outcome was standard stuff everyone expected and could buy. During a chill moment, Cook and Vinette hollered at me to grab dinner. My temporary mentor popped a quiz on the alphabet characters. She dropped that morning, and I aced them so hard. She tossed me a wild chicken drumstick as a flex. Turns out academic bribery slaps in literally any dimension. Shuffled back home under the moonlight. Running purely on empty fumes stoked the fireplace. Stripped off my gross clothes. Kicked my boots off. And face planted straight into the mattress like a felled tree. But the grind wasn't over yet. Dragged my dead weight back up. Snatched the dictionary and squatted by the hearth. Activated my inner gelatin mindset. Page by page, I literally pressed my transparent brain, putting onto the pages, and downloaded the text straight into my memory bank. It worked amazingly well until it totally crashed, cramming that much foreign vocabulary into my head. All at once caused a vibe. I can only explain like this. Imagine pulling an all-nighter right in the dead of winter, flinging open the window to a freezing gale, and then immediately biting hard into a frozen block of ice cream. That exact tier of brain freeze, where your skull feels like it's cracking. Along secret fault lines, I gripped that massive dictionary and started whacking myself right over the head with it, then flopped back and forth across the cot, clutching my head while making totally feral noises. Finally completely fried from a full day of pumping bellows. Washing veggies, sifting flour, and doing aggressive speed runs of self-study. I massaged my temples, tossed the book next to my pillow, lay flat on my back, and stared blankly up at the wooden ceiling beams. With the dead stare of a guy who has genuinely seen too much. And passed out day 3 in this wild fantasy realm. Jobs unlocked 3. Gains in muscle 0. Brain cells sacrificed an absolute ton. This cozy lifestyle I named my whole deal after was turning out to be anything but relaxing. Bang bang. Bang on my front door. Before dawn, even had the basic courtesy to show up. Every single muscle in my physique filed a restraining order. Against my brain, my arms, shoulders, and elbows were literally screaming. From yesterday's hardcore bellows marathon, dragging myself out of bed felt like peeling my skin. Off a medieval torture rack, I really didn't want to get up. But Asha had promised the morning after tomorrow. And right on cue here was the morning after tomorrow. And there he was waiting at my door in the pitch-black dark, looking like a survivalist alarm clock in human form. Hooded cloak and bow strapped across his back. Spear gripped tight, mysterious leather pack sitting at his feet. Let's roll if we're hunting today. Better vibe with this grind set. 0 good mornings. No how do you sleep chatter. Just pure cold hustle. Lena definitely put this guy through the ringer. Moments later, 2 specks. One towering and low-key terrifying. One tiny and swaddled in a raw, unkempt pelt, giving absolute lost bear cub energy. We're speed-walking up a rugged mountain trail in the freezing pre-dawn gloom. Uncle Asha, why do we gotta drag ourselves out this early? Dropping uncle on a dude with Lena's exact vibe. Using a squeaky kid voice honestly made my soul cringe out of existence. But hey, I was locked in for the bit. Beasts hit up water sources and feeding grounds at dawn to chow down, laying low when the heat cranks up, and heading right back to their dens at dusk. On bright, moonlit nights they roam and scout for grub. Dawn and dusk are peak hours for active prey, and their way easier to spot near watering holes. Open meadows and mountain passes, fresh tracks from the early morning, still have morning dew trapped inside them, making them a breeze to track. Once the sun fully pops up, that dew burns off and you lose that major W. Asha was actually patient. I'll give him props for that. His gritty voice dropped wilderness survival tips, like a hardcore nature documentary host, who somehow happened to moonlight as a total hitman. Then total silence. Just like riding alongside Lena deep in the woods. Except we're on foot and it's way chillier. The forest looked gorgeous in that terrifying kind of way. Dewy grass, dim sunlight filtering through the dense canopy. Absolute dead, quiet besides a random bird flapping its wings, making the stillness feel 10 times more sketchy. Asha sliced a sturdy branch right off a tree, trimmed it down smooth, and handed it straight to me. Use this as a trekking pole. The ground's slick. Last thing we need is you wiping out. Thanks, I muttered under my breath, low-key stressing that talking at a normal volume might summon some nightmare beast. Then dropped the wind lesson. He licked his finger, stuck in the air, and broke it down. Whichever side of the finger feels icy tells you the wind direction. Most prey has crazy sharp sniffers. If we're upwind, our scent drifts right over to them, scaring off the skittish ones and aggroing the deadly ones. Neither option is a flex. He flashed 2 fingers and chanted some spell called Eliminer, dampening odors, and a tiny whirl of air spiraled upward from the earth right around us, sweeping dead foliage into a quick mini tornado before fizzling out completely. Scent removal spell temporarily cloaks your body odor. But we're breathing humans. We keep sweating, keep leaking body funk, so sometimes smearing straight-up animal crap on yourself is honestly way more meta. He said that last part with zero sarcasm. Totally deadpan, yeah. Sometimes you just gotta wear poop. This world is elite, bro. You can't even use magic yet. So for now, hit up some dung water or mashed up leaves. Whatever kills your scent. My ears totally perked up when he dropped the magic bomb. Uncle Asha, how do I tap into magic? That's a whole vibe. My ears totally perked up when he dropped the magic bomb. Uncle Asha, how do I tap into magic? That's a whole vibe. He knows all the cheat codes for that stuff. Fair enough, totally bookmarking that for later. We finally rolled up to a tree, with a sketchy platform built way up in the canopy. Asha's hunting rest spot was less of a treehouse, and more of a plywood shelf with a roof. He scaled that trunk looking like an absolute spider, then dropped a rope down for me. Since my climbing skills ranked somewhere dead last, between a wet cat and a falling potato, for now I'll just hoist you up. Eventually, I'm going to train you to parkour through these trees, all by yourself right now. Some random bunny has way better survival odds than you. Brutal, but honestly facts no printer. He swept through the surrounding branches using his spear, checking for low-key deadly snakes and birds of prey, plus toxic bugs that might have moved into our crib. It's cold season, so we're totally chilling. But in summer you gotta scout before crashing here. Creepy crawlies are real, noted. Adding getting bodied by a surprise snake. Straight to my mental breakdown checklist for this ice-sky world. Breakfast was just some basic black bread and SUS. Dark cylindrical thing, I gave it a sniff. Gave off metallic vibes, took a bite. Super soft and herby, kind of giving black pudding energy. Blood milk animal fat, and some onions. Rosemary and oats weight, blood sausage. I was literally eating blood sausage for breakfast. On a wooden plank in a sketchy dark forest. At 5 in the morning. My past life self would be having an absolute stroke right now. It's actually low-key bussin' when I was out soloing. I'd eat anything except goat cheese. That's straight up trash. Asha's permanent resting stone face actually cracked into the tiniest smile. That stuff is truly garbage tier. Absolute W. Even the hardcore survivalist agreed. That goat cheese was an absolute crime against humanity. Right after grub, we rappelled down and ventured deeper into the woods. Pitch dark and dead silent. Every single shadow looked like a literal monster, ready to pull up and eat me. I clung to Asha like a barnacle stuck to a battleship. He dead stopped and poked around some dead leaves with his spear, revealing a pale blue, see-through gooey blob thing. It looked like a wet mud puddle, but totally alive. Go ahead, give it a tap. I poked it, and it bounced right back like a jellyfish, with sticky liquid coating the top. I could spot random leaves trapped inside the slime. A literal zero-tier, low-level mob. Basically harmless, they just munch on bugs. Decaying leaves, rotting garbage, and animal waste. Mother Nature's own trash compactor. Their insides are packed with a weak stomach acid. Zero nutritional value, so literally nothing hunts them. No natural predators, but if you're camping out in the wild, you better check your surroundings. I've seen plenty of noobs suffocate in their sleep from these things. As a gelatinous blob slimed right over their breathing holes, I found myself low-key staring at the cute little jelly, and it totally stared back with zero eyes, getting sent to the lobby by getting choked out by a slime while knocked out. In a universe where this was bottom-tier trash mobs, no cap, don't sweat it. They're mad slow and can't catch any air. Straight up harmless to anyone who's actually awake. Just super gross. He also dropped the lore that in some zones, slimes could mutate into cracked variants, based on whatever sketchy stuff they ate. But thankfully not here. Huge W. The tiny sapphire blob bounced like 4 inches off the dirt and flopped right back into its leaf pile. Low-key adorable yet deadly. This entire realm, in a nutshell, further down the path, stood a tree with shredded bark, chunks of dark brown fur stuck all over it, and weird triple-layered footprints pressed deep into the sludge. Outer rim claw scrapes, middle toe marks, chonky digits, inner pads, 5 distinct talents. Literally human-like fingers. This track definitely screams grizzly. A massive brown bear, just waking up from its long nap, looking to vibe and snack, having burned through a third of its body mass all winter long. So it's not even going to be as chunky as you'd think. His energy was so chill. He might as well have been talking about the morning forecast. This actually calmed my nerves. If the elite tracker wasn't tweaking out, a post-hibernation bear probably wasn't that deep, especially in a universe featuring cyclopes and massive titans. We tracked the footprints in dead silence until the sound of rushing rapids hit our ears. Asha already knew the creek was right there. He hit the brakes, blocked my route with his forearm, and gestured toward a brown figure shifting near the stream. My inner dialogue was straight up like, all right. So now he's about to set up a clean trap, right? Or maybe space out for a tactical flank maneuver. There's definitely a galaxy brain plan here. Asha just hurled his spear and completely whiffed. The javelin barely grazed the beast's back and went thunk right into a trunk behind it. The monster whipped around in a millisecond, even looking malnourished from winter. That unit was massive. It belted out a roar, a deep earth-shattering sound waves that scattered every single bird within a 100-mile radius. Fangs bared shoulder muscles flexing hard. It charged right at us, enveloped in a dark crimson, black aura dripping with pure, unadulterated bloodlust. Wait, a dark crimson black glow. Not that standard white aura everyone else rocks. That was completely cooked and terrifying, and I literally had zero time to process it, because a full-blown bear was sprinting straight for my skull. My brain completely lagged out. A million chaotic thoughts collided inside my head. Like a multi-car highway crash, am I supposed to be panicking? But Osha is an absolute pro. Did he actually miss on purpose? Why would anyone throw a game on purpose? Why is its aura totally different from literally everyone else's? Oh god, it's right in my face. I got totally paralyzed, couldn't twitch a muscle. Couldn't process a thought, couldn't even catch my breath. The monster's claws sliced right past the tip of my nose, close enough to feel the chilling wind brush my nostrils. And then Asha yanked the back of my collar, giving me Major Lena on the horse flashbacks. Basically snagging the orphan by the scruff was just standard military procedure. He yanked me sideways, and as we blew past the beast, my hand shot out completely on autopilot, and I gave a tap. Soft and fluffy. Not gonna lie, genuinely great fur. My brain was spiraling into full-on panic mode, while my hand was out here treating a charging bear like a pet. Priorities, talk about wild priorities. Asha launched into the air with me, riding his shoulder, unclipped his bow mid-leap, and sent an arrow straight through the bear's eye. With a loud snap like a breaking cable, the creature shrieked, slammed the dirt with its paws, and locked its one remaining eye right on us. Pure, unadulterated rage. Then he set me down gently, drew his bow once more, and drove the second arrow through the other eye, while the now completely blinded bear reared back up on its hind legs, jaws wide open, getting ready to smash down on us. Asha calmly slung his bow over his back, grabbed his spear from the tree standing right behind the bear, and in one swift motion stepped forward and drove it straight down its open maw, right into the brain. Total elapsed time, maybe 6 seconds, 3 different weapons deployed, 0 wasted movements, keeping that pelt pristine for a max payout. That's why he avoided using the spear for any body shots. He was low-key protecting the fur's market value. This guy missed on purpose just to bait a charge, then pulled off an absolute masterclass 3-step elimination, while carrying a 6-year-old kid, all just to squeeze out a better price on the leather. I was just kneeling there on the ground, my hands trembling uncontrollably, with my heart trying to bust right out of my chest, literally unable to even clench a fist. Total system crash, 0 courage left in the tank. Holding up okay? Asha planted his spear firmly in the dirt and reached out a hand. You good? I'm so sorry, Mr. Asha. I didn't mean to. I am honestly, truly sorry. It's all good, kid. Nobody's out here handling terror like a pro on day one. Even rookies who completely freak out on their first real fight can still climb the ranks to become generals someday. Survive this a few more times, and you'll get used to the vibe. I know you'll crush it next time around. He cast a spell to mask the scent on the bear's carcass, to totally suppress the smell of fresh blood. And a deep breath of clean forest air finally snapped me back to reality. Let's get moving. This blood odor is spreading fast, and it might draw something way worse toward us. On the way back, think about what I just pulled off and what lessons you can take from it. Us humans aren't like those overpowered species out there who get gifted crazy natural advantages. We grind and level up step by step like this, surviving one chaotic moment at a time. I grabbed his hand, got hoisted back onto my own 2 feet, and trailed behind him through the dense woods, on wobbly legs while replaying the entire brawl in my head. Asha intentionally missed, provoked the charge to completely control the positioning, shot out both eyes to blind the target, and utilized the mouth as the sole vulnerable spot for the kill shot. Safeguarded the pelt and protected my life the entire time. Every single move calculated, every scenario planned out, and me? I literally pet a charging bear. That was my grand contribution to the hunt. I pet the bear, peak character development right there. Step by step, you know. I had a whole marathon ahead of me because that trek back from the hunt was straight up psychological torture. Asha was hauling an 800-pound dead bear on his back, like it was just a regular backpack, not even breaking a sweat. Meanwhile, I was dragging his heavy iron spear behind me, like a total NPC who had completely given up on life, with the tip carving a pathetic little groove into the dust. I grabbed it thinking I could hit a sick main character pose, maybe spin it around like a badass a couple of times, and look tough, but I couldn't even budge it. This thing easily weighs as much as a dirt bike. How do you just launch it like a javelin effortlessly? Irwin crafts top-tier gear using premium-grade iron. If that tree hadn't been so insanely thick, that spear would have blasted straight through it. Asha dropped this lure while literally toting an entire bear, completely unbothered, saying, "Good gains for you, though. From here on out, you're carrying the spear every single time we hike down this mountain." My arms were already threatening to file for bankruptcy. Back at Asha's yard, as soon as we arrived, I flopped face down onto the dirt like a helpless starfish, with one arm shielding my eyes, mentally repeating the grind set mantra. No pain, no gain. No pain, no gain. While tears of absolute exhaustion welled up but refused to drop, because even my tear ducts were way too exhausted to function. Meanwhile, Asha locked in and started working like an absolute efficiency machine. He slammed the beast onto a stone slab, sliced open the hide with insane surgical precision, drained all the blood out, and scooped steaming guts directly into a bucket. And then, this was the most jaw-dropping part, he slid his knife right between the skin and the meat, with such insane mastery that, the second he gripped both bear paws, and gave him a single effortless shake, the entire pelt cleanly detached from the carcass, without a single speck of meat clinging to it. Bro, my eyes literally went the size of dinner plates. Yeah, he pulled out this massive wooden frame, stretched the bear skin over it real tight, and we lugged it straight to his backyard, which turned out to be a massive hidden fur processing facility, with dozens of frames featuring different wild pelts stretched out across them. Basically a low-key leather workshop hidden behind a hunter's shack. Fresh skin is packed with heavy moisture and natural oils, If you just leave it stacked up, it's going to rot fast, grow mold, and get infested by bugs. So you got to scrape it clean and mount it onto a frame for proper air drying. Skip this step and the hide shrinks by a solid 20%, which completely tanks its market value. Next, he grabbed a pre-dried wolf pelt to run a live demo, bringing out 2 buckets, one filled with clear water, the other with some sketchy green juice. Dried hide is technically referred to as raw skin prior to tanning. You got to submerge it in fresh water to make it pliable again, and rinse away all the leftover dirt and blood. You handle this part. While I drowned the wolf fur and thrashed it around in the bucket, Asha filtered that green liquid through a linen cloth, straining out chunks of tree bark and leaf debris. This is our custom tanning solution, brewed from boiled tree bark and foliage. Plenty of different plants get the job done. Just as the water inside my bucket turned completely murky, he checked out how soft the hide was, dropped it face down on a workbench, and then totally unfazed like he was hitting up a Starbucks, muttered an incantation right over the tanning solution. That was Arrow's Edge, a basic buff designed to boost projectile damage. He literally re-engineered it to target liquids instead, nerfed it way down. Now its only job is to make the chemical soak in twice as fast. Bro literally modded a combat skill into a crafting perk, speedrunning the leather prep with 0 chill. This absolute legend was out here using cheat codes in real life while regular folks spent hours pounding the skin with a wooden mallet and working it by hand, massaging that greenish mixture deep into every single pore. Without magic hacks, he explained, a bear pelt would take days just to fully drink in the tanning solution. And after all that comes drying, scraping, reddening, dyeing, oiling, conditioning, and stretching it out for the final fit. Ton of tedious steps, but I will show you the ropes step by step. By noon, Asha had the treated fur rolled up tightly, scraped all the gross white fat off the bear meat, sorted everything neatly into buckets, and loaded them onto a small cart cozy. Then Erwin dropped the news you're on smithing duty this afternoon. Drop this meat and fat off at the tavern for me. The cook will take care of the rest. I am heading back into the mountains to set up some wolf traps using the bear entrails as bait. And just like that, he slung his gear over his shoulder, grabbed the bucket full of guts, and strolled right back into the woods, acting like he was going for a casual weekend hike, instead of diving straight back into a lethal monster zone. Over at the tavern, Vanette helped me haul the meat buckets around back, where the cook was firing up a sketchy-looking smoker to turn all that loot into jerky ASAP before it goes bad. Joan cook. What is this white stuff used for? I pointed right at the fat, pretending to be clueless, even though my modern science degree was screaming. Those are pure lipids in my head animal fat, right? We melt it down, let it harden back up, mix it with some other stuff, and craft candles. Wait, so every candle in this joint is made from that? No. No. The cook started waving his hands frantically. Fat candles stink to high heaven and pump out nasty black smoke. This tavern only runs on fish oil or pure beeswax candles. They cost a pretty penny, but they burn clean. Back in the day, when we actually used fat candles, poor Vanette had to scrub soot off everything for hours. And what about that stuff you cook with? Is that the same thing? That is just butter, kid. Completely different churn straight from sheep or cow milk. Animal fat is way too precious to waste on frying food. Much better to turn it into candles or flip it for cash. Not even any vegetable oil around either, apparently. My inner chef shed a tear in silence. The culinary game in this fantasy realm was majorly lagging. Come afternoon, the cook tossed me a chunk of roasted bear meat as a snack, and I headed over to Erwin's forge while munching on it. The blacksmith was already going ham on the anvil, the beats of hammering bouncing through the town, like factory dubstep, totally on beat. Cozy, I fired up the trusty forge, then stepped close to watch me craft an ingot into a deadly piece. The embers were still glowing hot. I tossed in extra vortex coals, then slipped into a blind spot where Erwin couldn't catch my gaze. Shut my eyes and triggered my divine sense to scope out his entire technique. Surround vision. Yesterday, I told you trust your hammer. Every single smash sends vibes right up the handle. The kinetic energy bouncing back the audio wave. It reveals different metals, different phases, different reactions. Right now, this exact spot I'm hitting, the core layout is totally loose. The feedback force is way weaker than expected. The sound is way duller. Can you catch the vibe? I strained every single cell in my body. Ordinary ears picked up zero. A speak up. Totally wrong. Keep listening. I close my eyelids once more. Full divine sense radar active. A 1 meter zone of hyperfocus. Locked entirely onto the hammer strikes. Ting Ting Irwin was tripping down memory lane while working. His own mentor used to be a messy dwarf alcoholic, who was an absolute perfectionist at crafting, yet a total disaster in every other part of life. The old dwarf used to flick his forehead with magic-charged fingertips whenever he gave a dumb answer. Where was that old lush hanging out now? Probably causing total chaos in some city tavern somewhere. Ting Ting, absolutely nothing. I can't tell any difference at all. Sweat dripping down my face, brain short-circuiting. Divine sense burning through my mental battery like rocket fuel. Ting Ting. Then something shifted right through my divine perception. The hammer blows stopped sounding like basic sharp. Metal clinks, they expanded outward. That short flat thud turned long and echoing, like iron marbles dropping onto a porcelain plate. Ting Ting resembling temple bells, resonating across a quiet mountain canyon. Dong dong, the hammer and the bell fused inside my head. The tail end of each strike rang out crystal clear and sharp. I could literally hear the gap between dense metal and loose scrap, between pure iron and trapped impurities. 2 strikes delivering 2 completely different tracks. My eyes snapped open in pure hype, and instantly, without divine sense backing me up, that magical acoustic universe crashed back into ordinary, clanging on a tiny anvil arg. I slapped my leg in pure frustration. Without that cheat mode, brain fried. My normal ears couldn't pick up anything at all. Irwin caught my sudden mood swing and chuckled. Don't sweat it, I'm just showing you the ropes. You don't gotta master it today. If you keep locking in on the sounds intentionally, one day it'll just become second nature. That's when you're actually well on your way to becoming an actual blacksmith by that evening. My head was pounding like crazy. A whole afternoon of keeping up divine sense, running all those sound diagnostics, had completely fried my brain like an overclocked CPU. The phantom banging was still echoing inside my skull. Non-stop ting. Ting ting. Like a living hell of an earworm. Irwin decided he totally deserved a drink and dragged me straight to the tavern, where we ran into Asura, dropping off his card. The cook counted out the hunter's payout in silver coins, tossed the pouch aside, and yanked me into the kitchen, out in the main hall. The village gossip mill was already spinning out of control. So how's little Cozy holding up with the smithing gig, Irwin? He's barely been here 2 days. What's he even gonna learn? Though I gotta hand it to him for his age. I've low-key never seen a kid that locked in. Maybe your coaching is just trash, bro. Excuse me, has any tool I've ever sold you low-key ever broken? Being good at forging and being good at teaching are 2 entirely different vibes, my guy. Facts don't corrupt our sweet. Little Cozy eye with your rough-ass manners, Venet. Another round coming up? Venet poured the sage wine with absolute professional ease, laughing off the banter. That insanely hard-working little dude had totally won over. The whole damn village heard the news. Asha dragged back a whole bear today, and he brought Cozy along with him, right? So, technically speaking, Cozy Eye's already out here wrestling bears. Bro, that is not how math works. But still way more of a flex than someone who's too shook to even step foot in the woods. Hey, that was years ago, man. You literally peed your pants when you saw Cub. I was young and dumb, okay? Little Cozy Eye is way younger than you were back then, and he straight up petted the beast, while the adults were out here roasting each other over cheap wine. The main topic of their gossip was stuck in the kitchen, washing veggies with his head nodding forward, nodding so low he was literally about to faceplant into the lettuce. The cook grabbed my shoulder. Hey, Cozy. Are you passing out on your feet? Wanted to tell everyone to spot you a few days off? I'm fine, massivion. My brain was absolute mush from spamming divine sense all afternoon, but I couldn't exactly spill the beans on that. Just getting used to the grind, you know? I'll get used to it in a couple of days, all right? But if it gets too heavy, you better speak up. The last thing we need is folks calling us out for child labor. He was totally joking. I was literally doing child labor, though. But honestly, somewhere between the dawn bear hunt, the morning leather tanning, the afternoon forge hammering marathon, the evening vegetable washing duty, and the midnight vocabulary cramming sessions. This exhausting, completely unhinged, overwhelming new routine was starting to feel less like just surviving, and more like an actual home, a really, really exhausting home, where everything hurt and my brain was literally melting. But still home, a few days deep in my new schedule, I had finally gotten good enough with my divine sense to actually tell the difference between hammer strikes on unrefined metal versus solid metal. Growth. I was constantly toggling between standard vision and jello vision, grind set active, trying to force my physique to process the sensory overload, when suddenly the sound of thunderous hooves came clacking up the country path and slammed to a halt right outside the workshop. A voice loud, super extra, and radiating pure, chaotic energy burst through the entrance. Joey down to grab a drink with cook and walk. Literally the most extra human I have ever encountered in either life. Reddish brown. Shoulder-length locks with a single braid dangling up front. Rocking a sleek black wide-brim hat in hand. Banger leather jacket over a patterned button-down. And a flex-worthy golden badge, engraved with scales dangling right on his chest. Bro looked like an Isekai'd drip influencer, who totally took a wrong turn into a medieval smithy. Wait, who's this little guy? Your brand new apprentice before I could even drop a single word. This absolute main character picked me up, soot-stained apron and all, and hoisted me mid-air like a championship trophy. Zero hesitation, zero care about getting soot all over his expensive fit. Erwin quickly filled him in on my deal. So the stranger set me down, peeled off his gloves, and extended a hand with maximum theatrical flair. Might be fashionably late, but welcome anyway. Little Cozy Eye, the name's Clutter. A wandering merchant doing business in Novice. So this was the legendary Clutter. The guy who'd been hauling supplies into town for like a straight week, the one everyone kept hyping up, and probably getting wasted somewhere. He shook my tiny, filthy hand like we were finalizing a multi-million-dollar treaty. Then suddenly remembered something. Ducked back inside the forge. Snapped a coin pouch right off his belt. Dropped it straight into an iron lockbox. With absolute muscle memory precision. And immediately slung a friendly arm around Erwin's shoulders. Come on, let's go grab some booze. I brought back loads of top-tier ways in. It's gonna expire if we don't clear it out fast. Erwin didn't even budge, staying an absolute fortress of chill. So Clutter dropped his ultimate trump card. It's on my tab, let's roll. Instant fold right there. They bounced and were completely gone in 3 seconds flat, leaving me chilling solo inside the smoky workshop, just hearing their voices fading off into the distance. Cozy Eye, put out the fire and lock up the place for me. Little Cozy Eye, swing by the tavern later. Big Bro will buy you some tasty treats. These full-grown adults were literally ditching a kid in a forge, packed with scorching metal just to go slam beers. Parenting meta in this fantasy realm was honestly top-tier wild over at the local tavern. Clutter was already putting on a full main stage show. He dropped the heavy beer kegs down, spotted Vanet, and immediately activated his charm offensive. Miss Vanet, you honestly look breathtaking every single time I return. You literally say that every single time you roll back into town, because it straight up facts the moment I lay eyes on you. Every day, I just notice you're looking fine. But after being away, I realize your glow-up has seriously hit different, effortlessly gorgeous. Vanette was completely unbothered. Clutter rolled up into the kitchen, dropped off his cash for the chef, and started sniffing around like a total foodie hound. Man, what smells bussin'? Can I get some rabbit stew? The folks in town are so cheap with the seasoning. Super lame and totally mid. Chef shooed him away, then pulled rabbits from the cellar, and started cooking up a storm, skewering, grilling, then tossing that golden brown meat into a clay pot with butter. For a quick sear, tossing in diced onions, mashed peas, ground ginger, cinnamon, and rosemary. Chef's ultimate cheat code. A splash of fruit vinegar and wine. Hot water, lid on, and we wait. Meanwhile, Clutter committed his first major vibe check violation against Vanette's strict moral rules. He poured me a glass of wheat beer, golden liquid with hardly any fizz. I took an innocent sip while acting like a clueless kid, trying booze for the very first time, and stuck my tongue out and pretended to hate it. My actual internal review, though, faint malt and straw aroma, crisp apple-like freshness, missing that signature bitterness. But otherwise, this was straight-up beer. Primitive, unhopped. Short shelf-life brew, but undeniably beer. Whack. Vinette's wooden tray. Connected squarely with the back of Clutter's skull. Minors don't drink alcohol, period. She snatched my cup right back. Clutter took his punishment. With the smooth energy of a guy who's caught that tray way too many times in his life. Working at the tavern had taught me a lot about this realm's drinking culture. Sage wine was basically standard grape wine, infused with sage herbs. Most alcoholic drinks around here are just grape wine, remixed with various fruits or spices. The wheat-based, malt-fermented stuff was a brand new trend, hyped up for its unique flavor, but impossible to mass-produce, because it spoiled way too fast. And right at that moment, my biology degree brain lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. I knew instantly what was missing. Hops. The ultimate cheat code ingredient that wouldn't make its way into beer. For thousands of years in my old world's history, the exact thing that gave beer its signature bitterness and acted as a natural preservative, boosting shelf life through the roof. And in this world, that crucial plant was currently treated like a useless weed, called snakehemp grass. Its flowers used for ugly brown dye, and its stems braided into rope. A light bulb moment? Nah. A massive golden exclamation point flashed right above my head. If I could figure out the full brewing recipe, using hops, beer could be mass-produced, shelf-stable, and sold everywhere. My money woes were officially solved. My dream of an ultra-cozy life was totally funded. But then reality hit different. My brewing knowledge was super basic, no cap. I had zero production gear. I was literally 6. No one's going to take a 6-year-old's beer recipe seriously. And Vinnet just flexed on everyone. With what happens when you give kids alcohol. Pure school trauma via serving train courses. I facepalmed hard out of pure frustration. That cozy life dipped further away into the horizon. That evening the tavern was totally packed. Literally every villager rolled up except Grandma Madison, who low-key preferred being a hermit over socializing. Probably back home yelling at her. Potions Platter handed Asha his first bag from sales. The hunter weighed the pouch and raised an eyebrow. Prices are going crazy this spring. Adventurers are totally flooding the big towns. Workshops are stocking up on gear materials. Furs and Irwin's weapons are pulling crazy high prices. I made a decent bag riding that wave. That's why I went wild buying all this tavern clutter. What even are adventurers, anyway? I was chilling right next to him, sipping Vina-approved apple juice, legs dangling because they couldn't reach the floor. Pure curiosity, since I'd heard the word dropped everywhere, but wanted the full lore. Clutter's hand smacked my head again. I was starting to think. Head pats were just a regional vibe, like bowing in Japan or cheek kissing in France. Novice village style, where affection is delivered through aggressive. Scout contact, you ask the right guy. Little bro, you're big bro. Clutter hits up all the major cities. I got stories for days. He smoothly upgraded himself from uncle to big brother. Slick move when nations expand their borders. There's always wild, uncharted land at the edges. Some folks chase potential treasure. Others just crave the adrenaline rush. Brave or totally unhinged souls risk it all, exploring deep, unknown canyons, creepy underground ruins, and wild forests. That's literally where the word adventure comes from. To this day, the world is still super dangerous. Outside city walls, wild beasts and monsters are everywhere. Even our sleepy village isn't exactly safe, but the scenery is aesthetic as heck. The soil is super fertile. There's zero defense tax or property tax, and we're close enough to a major town that the danger is totally manageable. Some villages aren't built like that. Ow whack. Vinette's tray of justice struck again. Stop feeding him nightmare, feel my bad. My bad, my bad. Got way too hyped, where was I? Alright, peep the notice board in the tavern. Those are commission requests from nearby towns. People need materials for potions, weapons and fits. All kinds of stuff magic users especially are totally desperate for rare drops. Some items are literally priceless. And let's talk about the absolute goldmine aspect. Fallen adventurers dropping racks upon racks. In sketchy zones, lore says greedy goblins hoard massive stacks of cash. Dragons stacking up legendary loot. Secure even a sliver of that, and you're set for life, no cap. People keep flooding into OWAC like crazy. Stop feeding his brain with such unhinged ideas. Cozy. I'm definitely not chasing clout in creepy dungeons. It's total nonsense, I nodded frantically, watching Vinette stalk off carrying her tray. With low-key lethal vibes. Clutter massaged the fresh lineup of lumps on his dome. Tough crowd for dropping lore these days. NGL. Still, just like Vinette dropped, it's majorly high risk. But where the bag is heavy, there's always people willing to risk it all. That's literally how being an adventurer became a grind. The actual S-tier leads? Nobody posts those in public. Folks guard rare drop locations like classified intel. The job board is mostly filled with NPC side quests. Gathering basic weeds, boring escort gigs. Low-level investigations, trash mob cleanup. For actual high-stakes action, you hit up the Adventurers Guild. As for that main character fantasy vibe, roaming the map, taking in epic landscapes, flexing on dragons, living rent-free. Those days are strictly ancient history in bard songs now. He took a deep pull of his drink and let out a chill sigh, slathered rabbit stew over some rustic dark bread, and started feasting like an absolute king. MHM. Cozy bro, do you even know what our homeland is called? Nope. A dead-ass honest answer, totally valid for an orphan kid. Clutter's eyes lit up, another prime moment to flex his knowledge. Unacceptable. How are you going to survive this realm without knowing the lore of your own nation? Let Big Bro drop some game on you. It actually tracks back to Gigachad adventurers from 700 years ago. According to history books, roughly a millennium back. Some random guy got completely corrupted by dark magic, went totally villain mode, dubbed himself the Demon King, and tried to speedrun conquering all of humanity, using pure violence. Every generation has clowns with that kind of cringe ambition, but this guy actually almost pulled it off. The nations formed an insane, unprecedented coalition. Total war ravaged the entire continent for nearly 300 years. And all through that chaos, countless legendary warriors stepped up to the front lines. One of them busted out a forbidden spell and traded his own life to take down the Demon King, taking him out in a mutual takedown. He finally wrapped up 3 centuries of absolute darkness and was posthumously crowned the ultimate hero. In that hero squad, there just happened to be a prince, Edric III, who post-war stepped up as king and renamed the whole country. As a tribute to his fallen homie, the hero's name, sacrificed Jack Clutter. He dropped that line with maximum dramatic effect. I just sat there sipping my apple juice, feet still swinging, fully processing the fact that I was chilling in a country literally named after a dude whose name literally meant sacrifice. Isengard fantasy realms and their basic naming style. Subtle as a freight train, but deep in the back of my mind. Right between my alcohol hustle and the language grind. And the bumps from blacksmithing class. And that low-key wild bear petting trauma suddenly sparked a whole new vibe for us adventurers. We're talking magic academies. A massive world packed with endless possibilities. Turns out staying cozy didn't mean being basic. Clutter wrapped up his history lesson with total riz. The realm went by the Jackmon Duchy, flexing the name of a legendary hero, who literally sacrificed himself to smoke a Demon King. Back 700 years ago, the royal bloodline never rebranded it after themselves, keeping it 100 for their fallen G. There's apparently a whole statue of him in the capital. Just as Vinette rolled up to drop off drinks, Clutter leaned in and dropped a low-key whisper. Why you want to be a great adventurer anyway? Nah, FR though. Actual adventuring sounds like a total L, but I do low-key want to become a top-tier mage. We both glanced over our shoulders real quick, watching out for Vinette and her trusty tray. Coast is totally clear, learning magic is super extra, Clutter admitted. Anyone with even a tiny hint of magical juice can cast basic spells like Asha, like me. But actual prodigies head straight to a magic academy for elite training in alchemy, enchantments and potion crafting, and high-level spellcasting, unlocking a whole secret dimension for gifted students. Big keyword. At age 10, any kid can pull up to a mage tower in a major city and take a completely free aptitude check. It comes down to 2 things: magic affinity and physical stats. Magical affinity is literally everything. It dictates how fast you pick up spells and just how OP you can become. Low affinity means you're stuck grinding weak stuff like me. I can barely scrape by with 3rd ring spells. Most academies expect at least a C grade in affinity. If your affinity and physical build both hit D grade, some schools might accept you for a hybrid route. mixing spell casting with physical combat. Way less need for high-tier spells. Anything below that is a total waste of time. Save your tuition cash and just self-study. Though there's a third option, a hardcore magic theory test. Purely written and built strictly for hardcore scholars. And honestly, for filthy rich nobles who bombed the aptitude check. The syllabus is massive. Rote memorization won't save you. And you're basically gonna need a private magic tutor to even stand a chance. Tons of applicants flood in every year. Barely anyone makes the cut. Clutter scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Full transparency, I took that exact exam once. And failed so bad it was funny, ha ha ha. If you genuinely want to study magic, little cozy bro, you gotta grind hard. I see your work ethic. Everybody in this village respects that about you. But realistically, we can't do much to help. I'm just a mid-merchant, and Ash is a retired ranger. The only person around here who might actually be clutch is Madison. He noticed my mood plummet and gave my shoulder a squeeze. Hey, having ambitions is never a bad look. While other kids your age are still totally clueless. You've already been through hell and back, and come out way tougher on the other side. Not gonna lie, next time I head to the city for inventory run, wanna vibe with me? I'll hook you up with a spot that slaps with magic books. No cap, unklakute. Better call me Big Brother, or the deal is totally dead. He slammed the table with main character energy. That night back home, chilling by the fireplace, I went straight goblin mode into the herbology intro guide, with an insane amount of focus. Thanks to my OP divine sense, I had already speedrun the continental writing system pretty thoroughly, but I still kept showing up at Vanette's place daily for lessons, pretending to learn at a gifted but low-key believable speed, instead of flexing my actual cheat code speed. Had to keep up the whole charade. Bulb, root, grass, upright stem, minimal branching leaves, alternate elliptical ovate margins, slightly wavy, massive root system packed with tons of short branches, giving off seedling vibes used for crafting basic potions. Even for a starter-level textbook, this herbology guide was an absolute fever dream. Most newbies straight up quit because of this book alone. Heavy jargon, hyper-specific descriptions, hundreds of plant entries. Without my brain-scanning hack, even a full-grown adult would need a year or two to memorize all that chaos. Lying in bed, I stared at my tiny hand under the moonlight. Magic feels like it should be soul-based, right? The real question is whether my reincarnated Chinese soul even has magic potential in this universe. Either way, I gotta get my hands on past exam papers. Other things might be up in the air, but when it comes to taking tests, I crack my tiny knuckles with absolute aura. Nobody in this realm understands test-taking meta better than an elite Chinese student. 2 months flew by. My body finally adapted to the brutal daily grind. Morning hunts with Asha Forge, heavy lifting with Irwin, kitchen duty with Cook, reading grind with Finette, and late-night cram sessions by firelight. I wasn't crashing into bed looking like a zombie anymore. I actually had spare energy left for night study. Real talk, though. I had already completely absorbed the whole herbology book a full month ago. But rolling up to Madison's doorstep after just 30 days, screaming that I memorized the whole thing, would raise way too many red flags. A 6-year-old illiterate kid, mastering a foreign writing system, and a pharmacology textbook in a single month. That is not regular gifted child behavior. That is straight up SUS. Total government lab experiment tier activity. I used the extra month to actually digest the material, instead of just copy-pasting it into my brain. Cross-checking the book descriptions, with the actual plants thriving, right out in Madison's front garden. She totally caught me lurking around her flower beds, giving me some mad side-eye, but kept her cool. Low-key approval from the ice queen of pharmacy. Then the big test day finally hits, and you're telling me you went from totally clueless to totally mastering the continental language and memorizing the entire herbology intro guide. In just 2 months, Madison chilled in her wooden seat, looking like a strict judge in court, her face totally stone cold, and her eyes piercing right through my soul. I'm pretty sure I warned you that you only get one shot. Screw it up, and I don't care if Austin himself comes begging. You're never stepping foot in this place again. Do we vibe on that? Yes. Grandma Madison, crystal clear. Deep breath, since you're flexing this hard. I won't kill your vibe right now. Tail me to the backyard. The backyard was basically a full-scale medicinal plant farm. Rows of neatly grown herbs sitting in separate pots. set up with the crazy precision of a top-tier science lab. The air was giving off heavy earth and green vibes, full of endless potential. I caught you peeking at the plants in my front yard. Let's see if you can handle way more species. Call them out and drop their taste, smell, and medical healing perks. Deep breath, here we go. Garcinia resin drops in random, cylindrical or blocky forms, shaded in reddish-brown or orange-brown, with the outside dusted in a yellow-green powder, showing clear vertical lines running down it. Tough and super brittle, breaking apart easily, revealing a blue-brown waxy shine on the inside. Tastes sour and super sharp. Cures impact swelling, open wounds, and burns. It's a core ingredient for crafting healing potions. I kept hopping from plant to plant, spitting facts like a living, breathing encyclopedia. Whenever I ran into species missing from the basic handbook. And trust me, there were plenty. Since this was a master's private stash, I totally skipped over them. Madison only handed me an intro textbook, not some advanced guide. She wasn't testing if I could blindly guess stuff outside my syllabus. She was checking if I genuinely crushed her assigned material before we even hit the deep end of the garden. She cut me off. Enough. Get back inside. My face stayed totally poker, giving away zero emotion while my heart was racing like crazy. Back inside the cabin, she pointed at her workstation, filled with rows of glass bottles and jars, holding processed ingredients. These are semi-processed herb materials. Figure out the original plants just by looking at their appearance, smell, and physical state. My fist locked tight. This was the real deal, dried, smashed, extracted, and transformed. Herbs that looked nothing like their original shapes. If I hadn't wasted that extra month, actually grinding out the concepts, instead of just memorizing pretty pictures, this would have been totally impossible. I cracked open the first bottle, featuring layered textures looking like green wings that pop open when dry and roll into a ball shape. This right here is Phoenix cinnabar grass. This container gives off a slight warmth right when you open it. Bên trong là những món đồ có góc nhọn đỏ đậm. Đây chính là gai cây táo gai lửa đấy các bác à. Đám bột này đổi màu liên tục, tùy theo góc nhìn. Được làm từ cánh hoa váy ma phơi khô rồi nghiền nhuyễn. Hết cái này đến cái khác. Tôi gọi tên vanh vách từng loại nguyên liệu quen thuộc. Độ tự tin cứ thế tăng vọt sau mỗi câu trả lời đúng. Mấy mẫu vật qua chế biến này vẫn giữ nguyên vẹn. Đặc điểm nhận dạng đặc trưng của thực vật gốc. Với một đứa đã học thuộc lâu lâu toàn bộ giáo trình, bằng bộ não đỉnh chóp, như chụp ảnh. Lại còn cầm cùi so sánh với mẫu vật thật suốt cả tháng trời, thì chuyện này dễ như ăn bánh thôi. Khoan đã, dừng hình nào. Trí nhớ của cậu đỉnh thật đấy, không đùa được đâu. Thuộc lòng cuốn sách này trong chưa đầy 2 tháng. Tôi sẽ châm trước cho cậu ở lại đấy, được chưa? Cô ấy nhúng một ngón tay vào chiếc lọ nhỏ, rồi quệt thẳng thứ gì đó lên mũi tôi. Cơn ác mộng ma quái. Bào tử nấm có độc cực mạnh ngay cả khi đã khô ráo. Đừng để chúng tiếp xúc với không khí quá lâu nhé. Lần sau phải cẩn thận hơn đấy. Và nói thật cho cậu nghe, xét trên cương vị một học đồ thực thụ, cậu còn lâu mới đủ tư cách đấy. Tôi nhận cậu vào hoàn toàn vì sự cố gắng và chút tài năng thiên bẩm lộ gió thôi. Buổi đánh giá này vẫn chưa kết thúc đâu. Từ bây giờ tôi sẽ cung cấp tài liệu dược lý nâng cao và vài ghi chép công thức cá nhân của tôi. Đám ghi chép này phải nằm lại đây, câu chỉ được đọc ở nhà tôi thôi. Tuyệt đối không được mang về nhà. Tôi sẽ kiểm tra tiến độ của cậu định kỳ đấy. Còn thời gian còn lại cậu đi săn cùng Asura, hay quất bố luyện sắt với Erwin. Tôi không quan tâm, tôi chỉ nhìn kết quả thôi. Nếu kết quả làm tôi phật tí ấy à, thì cậu biết tay tôi rồi đấy. Cảm ơn cô. Thôi khỏi cần cảm ơn, tiêu chuẩn của tôi cao hơn người bình thường nhiều. Qua được nghĩa là cậu xứng đáng nhận lấy nó. Giờ thì bước lại đây nào. Cô dẫn tôi đến khu vực pha chế, sạch bóng như ly như lau, không vương vãi một chút tạp chất nào. Và bắt đầu buổi học thực chiến đầu tiên. Hôm nay tôi sẽ làm mẫu cách pha chế dung dịch cơ bản. Bắt đầu từ ngày mai, đây sẽ là việc của cậu. Cô ấy chịu hồi một con dao nhỏ. Tiền tay lướt phép thuật điều khiển nó bay lơ lửng. Như thế đó là chuyện bình thường. Rồi mở một chiếc tủ bảo quản phả ra hơi lạnh buốt, với ánh sáng xanh lam nhấp nháy bên trong, và bắt đầu làm mẫu với cây tươi. Thực vật phải được bảo quản nguyên vẹn cả rễ lẫn lá, để giữ lại trọn vẹn dược tính bên trong. Cần bao nhiêu thì dùng bấy nhiêu, đúng lúc đúng chỗ. Đối với chế phẩm nguyên cây, chỉ cần làm sạch, hong khô bề mặt rồi đem đi cân. Đối với chế phẩm chỉ dùng riêng rễ hoặc riêng lá, phải lọc bỏ hoàn toàn những phần thừa thải. Bất kỳ bộ phận sót lại nào cũng sẽ làm giảm độ tinh khiết. Cô ấy giơ lên một nụ cây quen thuộc. Có thế đấy, thứ mà cậu đã nhằn đi nhằn lại mục này không biết bao nhiêu lần. Đường dao của cô ấy sắc bén tựa phẫu thuật viên. Một nhát cắt là thân và lá bay màu. Chỉ chừa lại mỗi phần tu rễ. GTP Yahello. Ngay phía trên chùm tu rễ đầu tiên để lấy mẫu rễ sạch. Cắt ngay điểm nối giữa cuống lá để lấy phần lá tinh khiết. Phân đỉnh giữa các nguyên liệu giặt rồi thế là xong. Cleanse your tools and workbench thoroughly using pure, distilled water. Peep this exact bottle right here. Somebody low-key proved that vapor condensed water actually weighs less, meaning way fewer impurities, and zero messing with your potions. Her palm flashed red as she swept it across the budroot, instantly zapping away all moisture droplets. A drying spell. Don't even touch it if you can't control it. Certain plants literally flip properties when heated. Go ahead and weigh out 100 grams of drained budroot. A few stubborn water droplets won't make or break anything. Toss them into 1 liter of boiling distilled water. Get it boiling first, then drop the roots in. Let that brew for 10 minutes straight. Pour the extract into a container and top it off until it hits 1 liter total. Otherwise, your ratios will be totally cooked for massive batches. Scale everything proportionally, no cap. She funneled the liquid right through into a spotless bottle and locked it down. Run that exact same play with fresh phoenix, cinnabar grass, and blend both solutions together. Boom, that's your foundational brewing mix. Every precise measurement and step is locked in my notes. Go study them religiously until you're an absolute pro. Every single protocol I drop on you. And every recipe in those notes has got to be followed. To the letter, not just for potion quality. For your own survival, you feel me? Yeah, crystal clear, I got it. I have zero right to freestyle proven formulas. Good that you know your place. That's a wrap for today. Take these 2 manuals and textbooks home and grind them out properly. I rolled out clutching 2 new books tight to my chest, feeling like I just survived the absolute highest stakes boss fight of 2 lifetimes. Madison's validation wasn't warm at all. It was cold, clinical, and totally conditional. But hey, it was legit. Earned through raw grind and a little divine awareness. Cheating a bit, but mostly pure sweat. The alchemy route was officially unlocked. My Magic Academy dream finally had a solid foundation. And somewhere between the monster hunts and the bellows, and the rough black bread and endless vocabulary cramming, a tired former grad student, stuck inside a 6-year-old's body, was starting to vibe with the thought that maybe, just maybe this wild second life was actually going to work out. Oh, and apparently back in my original dimension, that divine white beast was chilling out like a fluffy white cat in a chill cafe, yawning right at a TV screen. Honestly, anchoring my powers across dimensions. Just to babysit this kid has been exhausting as hell. But he should be totally fine from here on out, even without any overpowered cheat talents. He's got more than enough tools to pull through. No need to stress over him anymore. Now then, I demand the full VIP cat spa treatment today. Every single deluxe service on the menu. My entire game-breaking cheat ability existed, just because some god wanted a luxury getaway. The universe has a genuinely wild sense of humor. April, the month of new beginnings. 3 months into my brand new gig as a fantasy realm orphan, / blacksmith apprentice / trainee hunter, / potion student / full-time dishwasher. The trees all over Novus were finally turning green, and the local tavern started pulling in travelers. Random wanderers on horseback dropping cash on Vinette for a room key, and straight up ghosting into the deep mountains. Just your average adventurers doing side quests. Their vibe honestly made the forest feel way less cursed and eerie. Knowing other living souls were out there roaming around gave us this low-key, comforting illusion of safety, even if mathematically it meant absolutely nothing. Asha. And I would occasionally cross paths with these guys. Deeper in the woods, both sides would instantly freeze up, sizing each other with total paranoia. Drop a silent mutual head nod like, "I'll mind my business if you mind yours," and just keep rolling on our separate paths. Classic forest etiquette. One afternoon, after trekking down from the peaks, I was busy grinding my hide tanning skills, scraping off all the gross leftover meat and fat with a blade. using a hunting knife. My technique had totally leveled up over 3 months. Though, I still couldn't strip a pelt as cleanly as Asha, who could literally peel an animal like a banana. Wooden wheels and horse hooves suddenly clattered outside. Only one eccentric dude drove a cart up this mountain base. Afternoon, Asha. Little cozy, perfect timing, as always. I'm rolling out tomorrow morning. Help me load up whatever junk you're selling. Clutter was back from wherever he vanishes to when he's gone, which was basically 24/7. While stacking furs and bundled bones onto the wagon, he casually dropped a massive plot twist. Hey, Cozy. I remember promising to drag you to the city next run. You coming or what, huh? I honestly thought he was just wasted talking trash. When I said that, his face went through genuine shock. He tossed the fur bundle right onto the cart, spun around, and flicked me square on the forehead. Little Cozy, you aren't just questioning my drinking habits. You're seriously attacking my integrity as a merchant. I'm nothing like those shady scam artists who ghost on deals. When I give my word, I actually deliver. How do you think? I convinced Asha and Erwin to let me sell their loot on. Credit pure trust, unmatched reliability, and W reputation. He aggressively jabbed a thumb toward Asha, who was standing right there, wearing a completely deadpan, dark expression. Clearly, super triggered at being used as an unpaid character reference. Without permission, look at that grumpy face. He totally trusts me. Erwin's weapons are absolute top tier for non-magical gear, and he lets me sell them, because my credibility is diamond solid. So are you rolling with me to the city, or what? You ungrateful little gremlin. I peeked at Asha, and he gave a subtle nod of approval. Green light secured. Hell yeah, I'm going. But let me go hype everyone up first. I bolted away. Madison's reaction to my trip, news hitting hard. Long as you pass my next brutal test when you get back. I don't care if you teleport to the moon. Vanette and Cook were visibly stressing out over clutter, holding down the fort with a kid. Even Chief Ostick rolled down to drop a whole 15-minute safety TED talk. The whole village low-key didn't trust Clutter's babysitting skills at all. Back at the crib, I popped up a floorboard under my bed and fished out my entire life savings from a tiny box. 6 silver minas and 14 copper bits. 3 months of grind Erwin's 3 cups per day was my only actual bag. Cook fed me for free since I put in free labor. Asha shared her hunting loot, and Madison got paid in pure knowledge. After copping basic supplies from Clutter, when I first rolled in, there was basically nothing to spend cash on in this sleepy town. Now I finally had a shot to grab a magic grimoire, and my wallet was looking super slim. At the forge, Erwin caught wind of my trip and shoved a silver mina right into my palm. Treat yourself to something awesome. After endless rejections that went nowhere, I took it as a cash advance on next month's check. My ego had limits, but my budget was down bad. The road to Rocks Dead City was way smoother by cart than heavy cavalry. Rolling hills, white clouds zooming backward, spring breeze flowing through the open wagon, the classic creak of wooden wheels on dirt trails. I tried to act chill, leaning against rolled-up furs, like a seasoned traveler, but my heart was going crazy, like it was my first time riding solo to the big city, which across both my lives it kind of was. Clutter shot me a side-eye, trying to act low-key, and shook his head. Acting all grown up, still a baby inside. We hit Rockstead right before the gates locked up for the night. Clutter and the gate guards traded banter, like besties at a bar. You again, can you ever show up on time? Let's grab some drinks sometime. He flashed his trader badge, got waved through, and parked outside, and then called Whisper of the Wind. Inside, he spotted the waitress and booted up his automatic greeting script. Miss Saralina, you look stunning every single time I'm gone. Good evening, Mr. Clutter. I'm pretty sure you said that exact line last time, because it's straight facts. Being away just proves your glow-up is real. I stood behind him, making a face, experiencing the wildest déjà vu of my entire existence. He dropped this exact same script on Vanette. Word for word, the guy had only one Riz line, and spammed it on every girl within a 50-mile radius, like an absolute NPC bot. He caught my totally judgy look, and messed up my hair. Don't hate, kiddo. You're way too young to get it. This is peak adult communication right here. Then he tried to bribe me with some honey wine. Their house, special, pretty pricey, but totally worth it. Low ABV, super sweet. I'll share some with you. No wonder Vanette never trusted him with kids. 5 minutes in the city, and he was already low-key corrupting a minor. But that honey wine sounded totally bussin'. And mentally I was 25, so one tiny sip was totally valid. The golden liquid was clear and straight-up glowing. Way prettier than basic grain booze or harsh sage wine. I just gave the surface a quick lick. Sweet floral notes hitting like an aesthetic spring morning. In a world where sugar refining is basically non-existent. Anything this sweet would naturally cost a bag. The economics are literally math on G out. Dinner was basic dry black bread and pea soup. The ultimate medieval NPC combo. 2 whole months of a culinary wasteland had completely fried my food standards. I dunked my bread in soup like a certified medieval foodie, and didn't even blink an eye. Clutter was side-eyeing me, with the smug grin of an absolute accomplice. The tavern started packing out real quick. These folks hit totally different from my peaceful village people. Heavy weapons strapped to their backs. Crusty leather pouches dangling off belts. Armor ranging from cheap rags to heavy-duty steel plate. Candlelight glinted off razor-sharp edges and showed off deep battle scars on their breastplates. For a kid-sized protagonist stuck at table height, the intimidation factor was off the charts. Random bits of chatter floated across the room. Did you hear someone got totally jumped by a cockatrice? Out in the Eastern Mountains, I was right there, man. Heard the screech and bolted without even looking back. Lucky to be breathing FR. Cockatrices aren't even that deep. Just don't lock eyes with them. I can't wait to flex my sword skills. I opened my mouth to grill Clutter about these monsters, then realized it was majorly not the vibe to treat. The locals like a human zoo exhibit, so I just quietly finished my grub instead. Mastering the art of reading the room. Fantasy world social skills. Level 1 unlocked upstairs in our room. Clutter just crashed on his cot and let out a huge yawn. Lot of core memories unlocked today, huh? Anything on your mind? Not really. Just realizing adventurers hit way different than I expected. What you expected is pure bard propaganda. Only the aesthetic romance stories and cap-filled legends actually make it into songs. Being an adventurer sounds main character. But honestly, they're just glorified mercenaries chasing a bag. All kinds of sketchy people, some are decent. Most are toxic, so watch your back around strangers. Not everybody is wholesome like the village folks. Bringing you here was partly to give you a reality check. He wasn't wrong and low-key. This little trip dropped something way more valuable on me than just learning how weird adventurers are. I finally cracked the code on that white glow. 3 months of data, and today's city run totally sealed it. That glow is literally an empathy detector. A cheat code to sense genuine goodwill and hate. When someone is genuinely rooting for me, they literally light up with a soft white aura. That's what I caught sight of when I first woke up in this realm. No hallucinations, no stairway to heaven. Just a city. Defense guards low-key, radiating pure care for a safe kid. Lena Ostaga the chief. Unlike Irwin's cooking, those local farmers were radiating pure white light because they genuinely cared, while hostility flared up like dark crimson spikes, resembling that charging bear's bloodthirsty aura back then, with Asha's raw killer intent, hitting way too close to home. Madison had flickered with a faint thread of black. The moment she first laid eyes on me, not pure malice, just low-key annoyance. That classic, you're getting on my last nerve vibe, way below the threshold of actual hostility. And right here in Rockstead, the guards, random passers-by, and boozing adventurers showed absolutely nothing. Zero glow whatsoever. Total indifference towards some random kid. Completely blank slate. Only when I stared at someone way too long would a subtle, dark flicker pop up, showing mild irritation at being gawked at. They'd glare for a sec. Realize I was just some clueless-looking kid. Shrug it off and mind their own business. White meant good vibes, dark red and black meant straight-up hostility. And absolute zero meant total ghosting. The intensity totally scaled with how strong their emotions were. Lounging on my bed with my chin resting on my fist, I cycled through facial expressions, pondering and flashing bitter smiles. As all the puzzle pieces finally snapped into place, Clutter was busy scribbling in his ledger, and didn't even care to ask about my weird-ass expressions. Traveling kids zoning out is standard behavior anyway. Nothing sus to see here. The second he got sucked into his accounting, I quietly slid under the covers, pull Madison's textbook straight out of my bag, and fired up Jello Sense to stealthily memorize pages in the pitch black. Plus, one more thing. I totally confirmed through multiple tests around Madison. Neither the pudding scanner nor the sphere sense could be picked up by anyone else. Whatever this power actually was, it operated completely outside the standard magic system. A totally invisible, undetectable meta cheat code, a Chinese grad student's soul, a divine beast parting gift, and a foreign world's mystical energy, all fused into the universe's most underwhelming, yet surprisingly useful superpower kit. A 1-meter, Jello brain, emotion reading HUD. With 0 combat stats, the Cosmos hooked me up with spy gadgets. When what I really could have used was a badass fireball. But hey, I was breathing. I had a solid game plan, and tomorrow I was going book shopping, taking it one step at a time. Rise and grind. Wake up. Someone was literally slapping my face. I snapped my eyes open to see Clutter grinning down at me, like one of those annoying morning people who totally deserve to get checked. I glanced toward the window, pitch black outside. Not a single hint of sunrise yet. What the actual heck? I don't even have hunting duty today. Why are we up at god-awful hours? Young folks need their sleep. Sleeping in late is totally fine. Besides, I've got client meetings this morning. So the afternoon is your designated tourist hour. At least the inn had hot water ready for face washing, costing 1 copper coin for the service, which Clutter mentioned. Most adventurers wouldn't even waste money on, preferring to wait until they just happened to cross a river and splashed around in it. Animals at least. Back in my crib, I boiled some H2O over the hearth, acting like a total low-key civilized human. Chilly water, but hey, water is water. After grabbing a quick bite, Clutter escorted me to a spot right next to the inn, pointed out the intersection, showed me the way back, and then dropped a major bombshell. Here is your room key. Figure out your own ride back later. Wait, you're ghosting me like this. Client meetings, man. I can't haggle over prices. With a 6-year-old riding shotgun on my arm. Plus, this is a bookstore. You're gonna vibe with it. He shoved me right through the door. Mr. Glass, are you clocked in? Oh, it's you. What brings you to my humble little nook? The bookstore was low-key, giving moody vibes. A handful of heavily guarded candle lamps. Microscopic windows, shadows casting everywhere. Once my eyes finally adjusted, I could scope out the layout. A low table stacked with piles of parchment paper. A carved wooden box loaded with quill pens. Ceramic ink pots. And shelves stuffed with basic bound books. Way in the back on separate custom stands sat aesthetic handcrafted scrolls, crafted from legit animal skin vellum. The store owner was a silver-haired old dude with specs, slumped behind a counter featuring a mini incense burner, puffing out soft trails of herbal smoke. Total academia aesthetic, massive trustworthy energy. Clutter fed him the cover story. Friend's kid wants to learn magic. Show him some books. Let him walk his happy tail back solo when he's done, and straight up vanish to go secure the bag. Mr. Glass gave me the side eye, trying to read what Clutter saw in this basic-looking country kid. Meanwhile, I was putting on an absolute masterclass of wide-eyed kid, staring pure, while on the low, extending my spiritual radar straight toward those gorgeous scrolls in the back. And jackpot, they actually held real spells. Actual magical cheat codes written on enchanted parchment. My mind-blown reaction was 100% authentic, though most of the data was locked down by some heavy-duty encryption magic. Only surface-level stuff was coming through, which made complete sense. Otherwise, anyone could just casually browse the scrolls, have a squad of homies each memorize different pages, and walk out with free hacks. Anti-piracy protocols, medieval edition. Mr. Glass, are those spell scrolls sitting on that shelf? They look way more premium than the rest of the books. I pointed with maximum innocent hype. Sharp eyes, little one, yep. Those are spell scrolls, and spells are insanely precious. So they get jotted down on heavy-duty vellum to last forever. Are they crazy? Super expensive. My hand was already clutching hard on the coin pouch in my pocket. 7 silver minas, my entire net worth. It's not just about the price tag, kid. Even the absolute cheapest single-ring spell scroll runs you half a gold solar, half a gold solar. That's like 32 silver minas, and I only at 7. With my current hustle pulling in just 3 copper cups. A day grabbing a single rookie spell would take, not FR. I didn't even want to crunch those numbers. My bank account physically cringed. What about those magic theory study guides? Are those super pricey or what? Nah, those are totally different. That theory exam was dropped by the government to help everyday kids grind out magic. The actual info is open source. The price tag just depends on the print quality. A full set of 6 books. 60 copper cups for the budget edition. 2 silver minus. And 52 copper cups for that sleek cowhide leather binding. And if you're a loaded VIP, who wants everything printed on premium parchment? Yeah, I'll take the cheap ones, please. I cut him off before the numbers could traumatize me more. My grip on the coin pouch was literally shaking. While Mr. Glass went to fetch the books, I peeped the price list on the front counter. Paper options in this realm. Cheap papyrus style sheets made straight from sedge plants. Rough and yellowish AF. 50 sheets for 10 copper cups. Nicer paper, giving modern quality vibes. 50 sheets for 25 cups. Actual genuine sheepskin parchment back in the day. Though nowadays parchment also covers tough hides from high-tier beasts that mages low-key prefer for serious legal docs. Even the most basic parchment was 50 copper cups per sheet. Spell scrolls ran on parchment. Just one sheet costing 50 cups. Yet a single rookie spell scroll sold for half a gold solar, crashing in at over 2,000 copper cups. The magic markup was 30 times the raw material cost. Knowledge really was the most overpriced commodity across any universe. Mr. Glass, can I also grab 1 sheet of parchment, 2 feather quill pens, and 2 bottles of ink? The pens and ink were dirt cheap. Basic craftsmanship costing barely a few cups each. Having to stare down those wild parchment prices. These felt like absolute freebies. 2 silver minus and 2 copper cups total. Just slide me 2 silver minus. We'll call it even. Mr. Glass grinned at my deeply suppressed financial breakdown. I handed over the cash with all the sorrow of a funeral procession. Ripped to my money. You held it down for roughly 3 months. Rest in paradise back in a hotel room. Deadbolt door locked, I laid all 6 theory tomes across the mattress and dove straight into magical network evolution. Fundamental principles of spell model construction. Deep analysis of cantrips, alongside the core logic of incantation dialects. My hype lasted about 4 pages before pivoting into pure mental overload. This wasn't some basic kids learning material. This was hardcore graduate-level theoretical physics, secretly wearing a magic costume. What random 10-year-old could process this? Even with a tutor, students would be fast asleep. Yet the deeper I read, the more I respected the craft. These manuals weren't just basic watered-down summaries. They were legit, real-deal texts. Step-by-step breakdowns of how magic actually functioned under the hood. Tailored for folks who couldn't tap into mana organically. Like trying to explain colors to someone who's been blind since day one. Mind-bogglingly detailed and crazy complex. Super ambitious, and honestly, the core concept totally blew my mind. The entire universe was completely saturated by a substance known as mana, magical particles threading through mountains, forests, rivers, and caves like invisible glowing vines. Scholars dubbed this interconnected system the magic web, though it wasn't a physical structure by any means. It was just a metaphor for how energy flowed through literally everything. It was so insanely vast that even the gods couldn't easily mess with its operations. Different elemental mana types shifted in patterns that drove the changing seasons. The sun and moon served as the highest concentration of mana in the whole setup. Their distinct elemental makeups, giving them unique properties, bringing light and calm into spell casting. Mages basically copied the magic webs, operating blueprints on a micro scale. They constructed tiny spell frameworks, miniature magic webs, and channeled mana right through them to trigger various effects. Words, language, and physical gestures all packed serious horsepower. Mages chanted exact syllables to bend mana to their will, while assembling unfamiliar spell structures. With enough grind, they could shorten the chanting phase, or eventually cast spells without saying a single word. Magic turned out to be way more cracked than I ever imagined. I was deep down the rabbit hole when Clutter suddenly knocked on the door. Hours later, he caught me standing there, palm facing up, and chanting in my own hand. Kwantong Zia Zuva essay to Inpusan. Nothing happened at all, obviously. Ah, you already picked up the theory books and you're trying to cast spells, huh? Clutter held out his palm, unfazed. Guantong ziaziu ziti banpuzon. A pristine water droplet instantly popped up on his fingertip, just hovering there like a tiny floating crystal ball. This is just the basic water droplet condensation cantrip. But your pronunciation was straight up trash. Your rhythm was totally off, and you can't even sense mana yet. Seriously, stop randomly spitting out spell incantations. Before you accidentally blow yourself up, I flopped. Face down onto the bed in absolute agony. Couldn't even pull off the most babyish of baby spells. My arms hung limp over the edges, while I pathetically flipped pages with a dead, jelly-like vibe. Come on, stop throwing a pity party. I've got free time this afternoon. Let me show you what a legit town actually looks like. He yanked me right off the mattress, smoothed out my wrinkled clothes, and after a quick bite downstairs, we hit the streets, and man, the atmosphere was unreal. Novice Village was popping off like crazy. Loud, packed with people, massive buildings, and pure energy. Clutter took the role of tour guide, leading us straight to a large, official-looking establishment. The Merchant Guild branch office. See that scale insignia stamped on the door. Exact same vibe as my golden badge. Pay your yearly membership fee. Grab an ID card, and you're free to fast travel between towns, with discounted fees and other sweet perks. Is a Merchant Guild low-key a private corporation, bro? Years of binging anime and fantasy novels had me dead-ass assuming. Guilds were grassroots operations, launched by regular folks, huh? No cap, the economy is basically a nation's lifeline. The royal court runs that joint directly. Same vibe with the Adventurer Guild right next door. It's a literal government department, built to keep tabs on the skyrocketing adventurer population. Adventurers are just way too chaotic to micromanage strictly, so the guild gives off independent energy. But it's not another romantic fantasy trope completely shattered by reality. Thanks a lot, Clutter. We kept walking until we pulled up to the craziest building I had ever laid eyes on. In either lifetime, peak Gothic architecture right there. Sharp spires piercing the clouds like stone blades. Slender frameworks stretching high, massive arched doorways. Gigantic stained glass windows, filling every gap between the structural ribs. Everything vertical, drawing your gaze straight up, giving you this surreal feeling of leaving the earth behind and ascending towards something divine. Intricate side sculptures loaded with crazy detail. A massive, highly complex rose window that looked straight out of a luxury museum. Wall reliefs, carved with scenes telling some epic backstory. Panel by panel, I stood there frozen with my jaw hanging open. For once, I wasn't even fronting. The church, Clutter announced, is one of the two major magical institutions, right alongside the mage community. Our country doesn't cancel other faiths, though, but the main deity is Briefia, the goddess of light. And here is the wildest part. Even regular folks with zero magical talent, if they lock in completely on a god, with absolute, unwavering faith, can actually catch that deity's attention and straight up unlock divine powers. My brain instantly saved that data into the high-priority mental archive folder, right next to beer hops, side hustles, and Magic Academy entrance prerequisites. 3 paths to magic power: innate talent, academic grinding, or religious devotion. A Chinese atheist grad student whose soul got reincarnated in a universe where blind faith could literally give you superpowers. The cosmos was really testing me in ways my thesis defense committee could never dream of. Want to head inside? Clutter asked, catching me staring at the church like it was about to eat me alive. The priests take goddess stuff super seriously, but they aren't gatekeeping snobs about visitors. We stepped inside and immediately ran into a fountain pool, featuring an angel statue spilling water from its palms. Clutter washed his hands and face in it, then motioned for me to come over. We're visiting a goddess. It doesn't matter what your fit looks like. Basic hygiene is just a vibe check for respect. Fair enough, I copied his moves, and we walked through a doorway 3 times my height, straight into the main hall. My jaw hit the floor and stayed there. The walls soared upward like skeletal ribs, climbing and locking together at the top to form a massive dome, making everyone inside feel totally low-key tiny. Inside a massive cathedral, which honestly we basically were just tiny bugs in there. The walls were completely draped in a flashy gold finish, that caught every ray from the stained glass up top, flooding the whole room in a glowing melted gold vibe. Every single surface was flexing a story, with painted glass panels, featuring sacred icons striking different poses, all framed by sun motifs, built from loops and smooth curves. It was hands down the most aesthetic interior I'd ever seen anywhere. Moving past the Golden Hall, through another doorway, right into the main sanctuary. Rows of pews sat there, mostly empty since it was just a regular day. Over on the right stood a massive pipe organ, dripping with intricate details on every level. No one was even touching it. Yet the keys were moving completely on their own, filling the massive space with an eerie, echoing sound, a totally automated divine organ setup. Front and center towered a massive statue of the goddess, shining holy light right above her crown. A tiny opening in the roof, crafted with insane precision, so a single beam of sunlight slanted down right through the drifting incense smoke, wrapping the statue in a total cinematic halo. Whoever planned this architecture was an absolute mastermind with lighting. Right behind the goddess figure, 3 walls showed carvings of totally different-looking deities. I nudged Clutter's arm and muttered under my breath, "Those entities behind the goddess look nothing like her. And honestly, some of their forms look kind of ambiguous. Those aren't the light goddess. They're the creator gods Yahello, mother of stars Prevaya, god of dimensions and opus, god of origins and everything else. The creator gods have no set gender, no fixed appearance at all. Whatever form you picture them having is literally what they take. They existed long before everything else came to be. Every other god popped up after they shaped the universe. Legends say they are totally chaotic and detached, wanting nothing and paying zero attention to anything. They never get involved in worldly drama, and couldn't care less about being worshipped. The other gods just told their followers to put the creators' portraits behind and towering over their own shrines, just to show respect. But since the lore is so vague and abstract, whether these prime creator gods are even real or not is totally up for debate. Either they're nowhere to be found or they're everywhere. That's all I know, heard it straight from travelers. Come on, let's go do our prayers. I followed, right behind Clutter, toward the goddess statue. Dropped to my knees on a cushion and shut my eyes. Pressed my hands together. And my mind went completely blank. What was I even supposed to do here? Vibe with good thoughts or chant something random? My divine sense radar picked up absolutely nothing from Clutter. He was just posted up there, low-key kneeling in silence. No fancy chants, no extra moves at all. Bro was just literally locked in and vibing with the goddess. Dear goddess, please forgive me for being totally clueless and having zero clue what I'm even doing right now. About a minute later, Clutter stood right back up. So I bounced up too, wearing my absolute best. Yep, I totally just had a major spiritual moment face. A nun rolled up with a tray, carrying 2 tiny glass bottles, filled with some clear juice that gave off a low glow. May the holy light be with you. Such a classic, but I definitely kept that one to myself. Clutter thanked her, tossed me a bottle, and we dipped. What even is this? Some holy water. Never heard of it. It's packing a tiny punch of actual divine energy. Basically useless on the free trials, but totally effective against zombies and dark forces. Like when it comes to goddess tier holy water, this stuff hits different for that exact job. Anyway, what did you even pray for? Well, I was totally spiraling. Couldn't exactly confess that I spent the entire prayer session stressing out because I had no clue what the protocol was. I just asked the goddess to help me ace learning magic. What about you? I asked her to hook my grind up with a massive bag. His face was deadass aggressively smug. A bright future totally counts as light-related, right? He flashed me a thumbs up, with the absolute most punchable grin ever. Bright eyes, light? Literally anything bright falls under the light. Goddess's domain, so she's definitely answering me, no cap. His logic was so cooked. It actually looped back around to being kind of based. We were jawing back and forth all the way to our next stop, the Mage Association branch office. After that insanely aesthetic Gothic cathedral, my expectations were way too high. I was picturing floating towers and glowing runes, mystical spires just piercing right through the clouds. And what did I actually get? Just a slightly larger than average 3-story building, Basic materials, completely normal architecture, with two random blue banners flanking the front door. That's literally it. Could have easily been a post office. Is this actually it? Clutter totally caught my vibe check. What's wrong? It's super big and has so much character, bro. It definitely doesn't lose to the church at all. Sure, in terms of sheer clout, but it's missing that one thing. Something that makes you go, damn, wow. Like actual magic giving off a distinct aura. An atmosphere, a main character energy that screams wizard's work here. My hand were just flailing everywhere, trying to physically mold the concept. I just couldn't put into words, Oh, I feel you if you want the absolute peak magic experience. You gotta check out Mount Omnipotence, the main HQ of the Magic Association. Buildings stacked from the summit straight into the clouds. Floating islands everywhere you look. Mage towers just hovering dead in midair. Literally an entire cyberpunk city built up in the sky. It doesn't even have an official name. But everyone who's ever been there says the exact same thing. Now that's pure magic right there. Even Clutter's eyes completely zoned out for a sec. Then he ruffled my hair, which has literally become his main side quest, and snapped back to reality. I'll probably never witness that myself. And you're miles away anyway. Can't even get into magic school yet, bro. You little munchkin, come on. Let's go vibe at the night market. Maybe we can grab some low-key snacks. I pointed straight at the association door. We're not heading in. It's just a basic government building. Nothing special inside. You can check it out yourself when you pull up for your aptitude test. In 4 years, walking away, I caught on to something and hit Uncle Clutter with a question. How come it's called the Mage Association and not the Mage Guild? Both the Merchants and Adventurers Use Guild. Big brain observation, those two guilds are totally run by the capital. But the Church and the Mage Association are totally independent. They work alongside the government, but don't answer to them. Mages have home turfs. But magic itself has zero borders. The OG founder probably wanted people to study magic freely without any political strings attached. Who founded it and when? Thousands of years back during the ancient magic era. The founder was Melvira, who is literally the goddess of magic today. The association started as a tiny Discord squad of magic nerds and blew up over millennia into what it is right now. A club for magic stands that got so crazy successful. Its founder leveled up into an actual deity. The ultimate historical glow-up. The night market was totally popping. Street vendors lining both sides of a wide avenue. Lanterns glowing, loud chatter, and amazing food scents. My eyes instantly locked onto a random stall. How much for this pretty little hair clip? Nothing crazy, no expensive gems. Super basic materials, but it low-key had a nice aesthetic. 32 copper cups. Dropped the middle-aged woman running the booth. Can you hook it up with a discount? There aren't even any precious stones on it. 30 final price, bet. Who's that for? Clutter asked, once we had walked away. There aren't any little girls back in the village. It's for Vanette. It's my first time out here. I want to bring everyone small souvenirs. Well, aren't you wholesome for such a tiny human? We kept browsing, grabbing a good luck charm pendant for Asha. And for Erwin, a towel. A pink towel. Clutter froze in his tracks. Why is the towel pink? Because it's cute. It is cute for a girl. Erwin is a massive, absolute unit. Beer chugging, hammer swinging blacksmith. You genuinely think he wants a pink towel. That's literally why it's a 10 out of 10 choice. All his other towels look identical. Dark, boring, and totally basic. If I hand him another plain one, he won't even realize it's a present. This one right here, he'll know it's straight from me. Instant recognition and max emotional damage. That's fine whatever. Bro, stop calling me old uncle. Lumping me in with Erwin like that makes me look ancient. I'm way younger. Y'all are older than me anyway, so what's the deal? Wait, is there even a blacksmith shop around here? Just a regular one, doesn't need to be legendary. Clutter was deep in thought for a sec. I usually deal with elite master weaponsmiths. Who gives a crap about some low-tier blacksmith? Let's just wander around. There's got to be one close by. 1 hour later, back at the hotel room. Let me get this straight. Clutter was facepalming hard with both hands. You actually went to a blacksmith. Just to commission 4 skinny metal rods. Square on top and round at the bottom. Literally just sticks. He held up the items looking totally clueless. Look, I know they low-key look like magic wands. But wands gotta be crafted from mana. Conductive stuff like pure gold or silver. You can't just mold some rust-proof steel into sticks and call it a spell-casting focus. These aren't wands, they're a present for Cook. They're called chopsticks. I rinsed the metal sticks in hot water, grabbed a pair, and clicked them together in mid-air. Chopsticks, never even heard of them. What are they even for? Just watch. I dipped the chopsticks right into a bowl of veggie soup, plucked out a single leaf, and munched on it. Then scooped some pea paste onto my bread. All one-handed, super smooth, and effortless. See, one hand. 2 sticks, 0 knives. No fork needed whatsoever. A fork could never pick these up. Handling them is chill with no sharp edges. No pointy tips, total convenience. Fast and safe, clutter. Picked up the other pair, Cook's gift set, and started fumbling with them. Like a literal toddler holding crayons for the first time. Cozy guy, if you're totally broke on cutlery, you could have just told me. I'd gladly buy you a knife and fork. I'm starting to think you snapped 2 twigs off a tree because you were too down bad broke for real utensils, and then gaslit yourself into thinking you invented something. Excuse me, I was dead-ass offended by that. Sure, buying these custom gifts drained almost all my cash, but chopsticks are an absolute W for Cook. When he's cooking up a storm, he can taste test dishes instantly without dropping everything else in his hands. A basic fork can't even grab small stuff properly. Watch this, I plucked a single round piece straight from the soup and held it up flexing hard. I can hold this tiny thing all day without dropping it. Then I grab a book with my other free hand. And boom, I can read while eating. Try pulling that off with a knife and fork, alright. Fine. I yield, just go ahead and explain it to Cook yourself when we get back. 5 millennia of rich Chinese culinary history. And my ultimate cultural contribution to this fantasy realm was destined to be a pair of steel chopsticks, handed over to some village chef who had literally never seen food eaten without a fork. Hey, legendary legacies always start small. Watching Clutter struggle with the chopsticks, looking like a guy trying to eat soup using knitting needles. A terrifying realization suddenly hit me. My face flushed crimson as my hand instinctively reached for my coin purse, which held a measly 4 or 5 copper pieces, basically translating to absolute 0. I'd gone out my way to buy gifts for everyone. Vanette's hair clip, Asha's charm. Erwin's stunning pink towel. Cook's next-level chopsticks. Literally everyone except the guy who dragged me here. Cover my rent. And spent the whole day acting as my personal tour guide. Clutter, professional reader of human vibes. Master negotiator, a guy whose entire bag was built on picking up on what people were low-key thinking. Picked up on it instantly. One look at my red mug and my hand gripping nothingness. And he totally caught on, dropping his chopsticks, throwing himself back on the bed with a heavy sigh, dripping with the dramatic flair of a main character in a soap opera. A little bro. Your beloved big brother drags you all the way out to the big city, shows you the sights, hooks you up with bookshops, and churches and night markets. And this is the thanks I get? Freaking 0. Well, I guess I'll let it slide for now. But someday when you're swimming in cash, you owe me some top-tier booze, no cap. Top-tier booze? My brain sparked like a flint striking steel. Other fancy drinks? Way out my budget. Totally unfeasible. An absolute L on every front. But wheat and beer mixed with hops. Now that right there was a recipe I literally had downloaded in my head from another life. And the missing puzzle piece was literally growing like a weed that nobody even gave a damn about. The math was mating hard. Uncle Clutter, what if I told you? There's a way to sip wheat beer every single day and make a bag doing it? He practically levitated right off the mattress. Dropped the words alcohol and profit in the same breath. And this man's burnout vanished like morning fog. What could a pint-sized gremlin possibly know about making money? Spill the tea. Do you even know what snake hemp grass is? Snake hemp? Obviously. The ropes I use to strap down cargo are made from it. Do you have any clue what its flowers can do? The blossoms? They make yellow dye, right? What's that got to do with wheat beer? That's just the basic surface-level use. According to Madison's herbology textbook, snake hemp flowers also possess digestive and sedative qualities. This was my ultimate cover story. The herbology manual actually did list those exact traits. Solid, verifiable facts. My accidental discovery of the preservation effect was supposedly a total fluke. Happenstance during some routine experiments, totally believable. For a crack prodigy apprentice pharmacist, definitely not. Meta-knowledge imported straight from a past life on Earth, where brewing beer had a solid 5,000-year head start. Clutter's merchant brain instantly locked in. Now that you mention it, Madison did drop off a batch of sleep-aid potions with me to push once they popped off with high-class clientele. Maybe snake hemp was one of the ingredients. But sedation and alcohol have zero correlation. Unless you're out here claiming people chug it just to pass out. Nah fam, those blossoms actually pull weight as an additive. I was low-key cooking up some experiments, using snake hemp from Madison's syllabus, letting it simmer on the stove for ages, just to crank that potency all the way up. Was planning to test out the knockout drops on some poor critter, but it completely slipped my mind while sitting at home. By the time it popped back into my head right before our trip, that concoction hadn't gone sour at all, which basically screams that it locks things in place. I let that realization marinate. Drop this into the ways in while it's brewing, and that expiration date gets a major glow up. And you, Mr. Clutter, my absolute goat and business partner, know better than anyone else here just how crazy valuable long-lasting ways in is on the market. This was straight facts ever since I became Madison's main apprentice. I've been secretly testing out different hop ratios on the side. Too much made the whole thing insanely bitter. Too little, and the preservation was basically trash. Those trials came with some hilarious side effects, though. The heavy sedative vibe of the hops meant I was sleeping like a total rock for days straight. After tasting the test batches, silver lining though, a sealed flask of hop and malt solution was just chilling under my bed back at the crib. If that stuff hadn't spoiled, the whole theory was basically locked in as a W. Of course, Madison could never find out about this. If she caught wind that I messed with her sacred boiling times from her official recipes and actually drank the results, she wouldn't just fail me. She would probably boot me out of her cottage, using some very hands-on violence. Fascinating theory, Clutter remarked with caution. But even if the preservation actually checks out, you're missing a massive point. Snake hemp extracts taste like straight-up medicine. Who is actually going to buy bitter ways in? Time to drop the ultimate truth bomb on him. Wait a minute, did I hear that right? A full-grown adult admitting he only drinks sweet stuff. I grabbed my own head in total dramatic disbelief. That beloved ways in you simp over so hard. That is basically flavored sugar water for toddlers. This entire tavern is famous for its honey wine, which is literally just alcoholic juice for kids. And right downstairs at this very second, we have huge, beefy adventurers decked out in full gear, screaming cheers, while totally mobbing what is basically adult lemonade. Clutter's face dropped because he knew I had him cornered. All the man's favorite drinks were heavily sweet, so his ego immediately went into defense mode. I only drink honey wine for high-level business networking. Keeping a clear head during high-stakes deals is a power move. Those rowdy adventurers are the real babies here. Yeah, sure, buddy. Whatever helps you sleep soundly in a room located inside a honey wine hotel besides the bitterness. We also have to talk about the aroma, I continued. Snake hemp blossoms pump out a potent and totally distinct scent when boiled down for a long time. That is actually the main reason they work great as dye material. That exact same fragrance transfers right into the brew. Bitter yet deeply aromatic, that is not a bug. That is a feature. I broke down the classic historical accident that supposedly led to hops being discovered in the first place. For brewing. Dye worker boiling snake hemp. Caught a whiff of that crazy good aroma. Took a sip of the dye mix just out of pure curiosity. Figure the bitter kick hit kinda nice. And happened to have a brewer homie. Without that insane string of plot armor, literally nobody would ever think to toss a bitter plant into alcohol on purpose. The raw materials are practically free anyway. Snake hemp grows wild everywhere with zero effort. Nobody even wastes time cultivating it. Dye shops just forage for it for free. Barley malt is super cheap too. If this play works out, the profit margins are going to be massive. Clutter was low-key hesitating. I could literally see the capitalist gears spinning inside his head. This kid was built different, and the logic was totally bulletproof. The overhead costs were actually dirt cheap. Local farmers already brewed booze at home anyway. Proving the baseline process was totally doable. Fine, your whole argument checks out. The whole business model hinges on whether snake hemp can actually prevent the brew from spoiling. How confident are you? Like 99% sure. Unless something goes catastrophically wrong, you feel me. My little experiment totally worked. Just roll up to my pad and see for yourself, deal? Though hearing a 6-year-old drop the word experiment this many times is mad, creepy, honestly. Are you actually 6, bro? I once heard a rumor about some prodigy little girl who somehow brewed an anti-aging potion. If something that busted actually existed, every single power-hungry boomer across the continent would have already backstabbed someone to secure it. It would be front-page news. Guess what? That just proves you're way less clued in than you think. Uncle, you were way less adorable than when we first met. Watch your tone, or I'm snitching to Vanette that you've been secretly cooking up bootleg alcohol on the side. Well then, I'll tell Vanette. You dragged me straight to a bar and got me sloshed on honey wine. And then The candlelight cast our giant silhouettes right onto the window paper. One towering figure, one tiny squirt, throwing wild hand gestures back and forth, in what was basically a toxic mutual extortion standoff, locked between a full-grown adult and a 6-year-old toddler. And neither of us was going to take the L. 5 days later, Clutter rushed his cart right back to Novice Village, way ahead of schedule for one very specific reason. That whole hop experiment kept eating at his brain. He kept overthinking the science the entire trip back. Why hadn't professional alchemists ever caught on to the preservative properties of hops? Because crafting magical potions literally required sorcery at every step. That raw mystical energy itself was what kept magical potions from expiring. No one would ever credit a potion's long shelf life to some random weed found in the wild when the whole process was already supercharged with overpowered magic. The preservative magic hack of snake hemp stayed totally under the radar, completely hidden in the shadow of pure sorcery. Could magic preserve regular beer too, though? In theory, yeah, for sure. But mass-producing magic potions was already completely impossible to scale. No brewery could ever flex enough cash to hire actual pharmacists just to drop some enchantments on beer kegs. Relying strictly on magic was a massive L for business, meaning any legit magical preservation trick, like hops, was a total game changer. And the person most likely to low-key stumble into it was literally someone like me, a broke pharmacist apprentice who couldn't even use magic, stuck dealing with raw ingredients and grinding out how nature actually works. Clutter pretty much reverse-engineered why my accidental discovery made total sense. I low-key felt bad for gaslighting him, almost. The cart barely paused before I speed ran inside, dove under my bed, and emerged, clutching a massive glass bottle with a locked-down cork. My absolute masterpiece, months of secret grind. This is it. I threw in extra malt broth to test if it could stop the rot. Inside, a sugar-loaded mix. Clutter popped the cork and took a deep sniff. Zero funk, zero sour stench. Just that rich signature vibe of hops paired with a warm aroma of malt. Straight up hitting all the right notes. He paused, took another sniff, thought it over, then sighed and sealed it back up. The time span is still way too short. And this isn't even actual beer. It's just a random liquid mix. The brewing technique is everything, and yours was amateur hour. Even if you somehow turn this into drinkable booze, it'd probably taste trash. This doesn't prove anything concrete yet. My vibe dropped, but only for a second. Then he held up a finger. Methods and formulas aren't locked down. I can easily cop the necessary brewing gear. On my next supply run, then we start cooking. Take over his kitchen and run the whole production line the right way. Your theory, actual setup, pro-level crafting skills. That's going to be the ultimate test. You won't regret this call. I flashed my tiny fangs in a cheeky grin and gave him a solid thumbs up. Let's go. If this strategy actually pops off, you won't need to stress about tuition anymore. Wait. Tuition? What tuition? Magic Academy tuition. Genius. Clutter ruffled my hair for the millionth time. You actually think magic schools are out here running charities? You seriously think passing the entrance exam, hand you a free rye glass, told you this? The cheapest spell scroll costs a cool 30 silver minus, even though the government slashed fees to hunt down talented commoners. 1 semester still runs you a gold solar. 7 years, 14 semesters total. That's 14 gold solars right there. How much do you even pull in daily? 3 copper cups. 3 cups that Erwin is generously paying you. For Bellows labor that's basically worth 0. He's also schooling you in blacksmithing totally free. Do the math. 3 cups daily for 4 years until you turn 10, without spending a single coin. Nets you around 4,300 cups. Convert that, and it's barely over 1 single gold solar. Just enough for 1 semester and a certain someone. Just dropped 3 months of hard-earned cash on presents, including a pink towel. Pull that stunt a few more times, and see how you're supposed to pay for college. He loomed over me with his hands glued to his hips, lecturing like a stressed-out auditor uncovering shady expenses. My gaze dropped lower and lower, with every single brutal dollar amount. Then his tone mellowed out. Look, buying presents isn't a crime, dropping your tiny stash to show love to the ones who've got your back. That low-key speaks volumes about your character. Sure, they might have started watching your back out of pity, but 3 months later, they still treat you like blood. Show you the ropes, keep you fed. Got your back, that's all, because of who you are. Your appreciation, your insane grind. He squatted down and placed a hand on my head. Way softer this time. We've all been talking about you. You know, wondering where you'd be in 4 years. If you'd stack enough cash for your big dream. And if you couldn't. Everyone was already down to pool their bread together. And bail you out. My vision got all blurry. And then you go ahead and get into Madison in just 2 months. When everybody thought that was cap. He grabbed the hot bottle, gave it a swirl, and shoved it right back into my hands. And now you pull a stunt like this. Oh, is little cozy I actually tearing up like a normal kid? I'm not crying, I sniffled hard. My eyes were just fogged up because of the hot fumes. Straight up, something flew right in my eye. Sure it did, shut up. But standing right there inside my tiny shack, clutching a bottle of experimental hop extract, knowing an entire village of folks I'd only known for 3 months, were already plotting to fund my entire schooling. Yeah, something definitely got in my eye. Both of them actually refusing to quit. Back so soon. Vanette looked genuinely shook when we pushed through the tavern doors. Wrapped up business, real, quick clutter, smoothly explained. Took the little man sightseeing. But my next stops are way too far to drag a kid along. Dropping him back first, we've locked in a pact. The hot plan stays top secret until Clutter grabs all the supplies, and we're ready to make moves. Not even Cook gets clued in early. Hey, Vanette. I got you this hair clipped straight from the city. Well, thanks so much, Cozy. Crazy how some people bring actual presents, instead of just empty talk. Every time. She shot a glare at Clutter that could freeze lava solid. Oh well. I've got some high-priority drop-offs. Gotta bounce, peace out. Later, Clutter bolted out the building, like a guy fleeing a fresh crime scene. Gift distribution officially commenced. Cook got the chopsticks, and to my absolute shock, mastered those things in like 30 seconds flat. That man's hand-eye coordination was unreal. Years of carving things up gave him crazy finger skills, making my chopstick crash course completely pointless. Bro was snatching up single P's. Before I even wrapped up my TED Talk, Chief Ostick flexed a low-key fresh ink pen. I totally remembered his beat-up pen from my first run-in. His weathered face melted into the sweetest grin. Then came Irwin the blacksmith, dead-eyeing the pink towel, staring at me, then back at the pink towel. His rugged, serious mug glitched through like 17 different moods. In 3 seconds flat, before settling on majorly shook, he scoped out the entrance, making sure nobody was creeping, grabbed the towel, and shoved it into the back room, faster than he had ever tossed glowing hot metal. A present is a present, even a SUS pink one. Madison scored a single sheet of fancy parchment, literally the only flex I could afford, that an alchemist would actually vibe with. She side-eyed it with her signature Ice Queen energy, flicked her wand in a lazy loop, and a drawer slid open on its own accord. My cheap parchment got sucked right in, while a way cleaner, massive, premium sheet flew out and glided smoothly right into my hands. Use this for your notes from now on. Time for a pop quiz. After somehow surviving her ruthless grilling session, based on her rare manuscript, I stepped outside, clutching the sickest piece of paper I had ever laid eyes on. The edges were pristine. The tone was flawless. The texture felt like holding actual air. It was so aesthetic. I couldn't even bring myself to scribble on it. Asha's reaction was the most peak Asha move ever. He took the good luck charm, said absolutely nothing, slid it into his pocket, and kept skinning a deer like it was totally normal. That night, after hitting the gym and showering up, he posted up in his backyard, using a water basin as a makeshift mirror, holding the tiny trinket against different spots on his body while totally stressing, trying to figure out where to rock it, so it wouldn't look goofy or get shredded in a skirmish. Jigga-chat on the outside, total softy inside. Pure classic Asha behavior over 10 agonizing days later. Clutter's wagon finally pulled back into the settlement. Kicking up a massive dust storm, he bought out everything. Brewing gear, barley, malt, and every single ounce of top-tier hops he could track down. Operation Brewski was officially locked in. Can I help you, chef? He unlocked the back door to spot one grinning trader and one giggling 6-year-old loitering outside, acting like absolute cartoon villains. Shoo. Clutter slammed his hand over chef's mouth and motioned his head toward me. I got to work unloading the rest of the haul, dragged everything inside, and parked on the back steps. Chef listened with growing confusion as Clutter went off on his wild pitch about completely flipping the entire food and drink game. Chef just sighed, completely ghosting Clutter, and turned to me, whispering, "Bro, Clutter is always cooking up some nonsense. Why are you mixed up in this?" Uncle Cook, this was actually my idea. I couldn't afford a gift for Clutter, and he likes drinking. So I figured out a way to make ways and that won't spoil. Is this actually going to work? How confident are you? 99.9%. Why the decimal? Because I already promised Clutter 99%. And I'm even more confident now. But I don't want to jinx it. Fine. He bought all the supplies already, and it's not him. Why money on the line? Tell me how to add the snake hemp stuff. Here we go. We set up a big pot in the backyard. First step, cracking the malt. 3 of us sat there with hand-cranked mini grinders, adjusting the settings until the husks cracked open without being pulverized. 1 kilogram of malt per 3 and 2 liters of water into the gradually heating pot. Cook stirred with a giant iron ladle, while I carefully managed the fire and Clutter. He pulled up a little stool, sat down, produced a bag of nuts from somewhere, and started snacking while tossing the shells into the flames, contributing nothing. Classic investor behavior. Cozy, I add more wood. Temperature needs to go higher. After considerable sweating and stirring, Cook and I sat on the ground washing hop flowers, while Clutter, finally doing actual work, filtered a massive pot of malt soup through cloth. These hop flowers look as malnourished as I was. 3 months ago, I complained, pinching the scraggly little blossoms. Madison's garden weeds look healthier than these. This is actually the good stuff, Cook said, draining the flowers. Clutter probably tried hard to source quality hops, but since the only known uses are dye and rope, nobody cultivates them properly. Wild harvested is all that exists. I sound like a tiny old man, which apparently looked hilarious, because Cook cracked a smile. If this works, the preservation's secret won't stay hidden forever. Lots of people will start growing hops. We need to figure out how to cultivate better varieties. Early, already thinking 3 steps ahead. My graduate research brain never sleeps. Everything prepped. Cook looked at the clear malt soup and asked, "Now what? Boil it. Add 2 grams of hop flowers per liter. Simmer for 1 hour minimum. Keep the water loss under 10%. Got it? Simple instructions. Cook didn't need hand-holding. The man was a kitchen professional. After the hop boiling, he went to prepare yeast culture, while Clutter and I transferred the clarified ghee into 2 tall glass jars. These jars were Clutter's biggest expense, in a world where ordinary glass was still difficult to manufacture. Transparent containers, large enough for fermentation monitoring. Cost a grip, he kept those bad boys safe the whole trip, using plush cushioning and wind sorcery. The jars alone ran up a higher tab than all other brewing gear combined. A merchant who dropped serious stacks on sea through fermentation tanks just because a 6-year-old told him to brew beer is either a genius or totally out of his mind. Honestly, probably both. The rest is just standard procedure. Uncle Cook, all yours, bro. No cap by the time everything was sealed tight and hauled down to the chilly basement, where Cook's personal wine stash hung out. It was smack in the afternoon. I bolted to the forge for my bellows shift, leaving Clutter and Cook down in the cellar, glaring at each other on the trek back to the kitchen. Cook asked deadpan, "You're actually down to drop this much bank? What if this whole thing completely tanks? That is so not like you. This is little cozy eyes college fun money." That rare moment of being real lasted about 3 seconds flat. Besides, Clutter's face morphed back into his signature shady grin. Even if the brew bombs, I can just flip the equipment, launch a tiny pub, and serve regular ways in. Strictly in small batches. I will always break even, and if it pops off, shelf-stable ways and can get shipped to far-off cities. The market is massive. He threw an arm around Cook, and you'll get a bag, of course. Cook shoved the arm off his shoulder, keeping his face totally neutral. Have you factored in that if this blows up big, rival breweries are totally going to reverse engineer the recipe? It's super easy. They can't afford alchemists to brew for them, but they can definitely pay someone to analyze. What is actually in the beer you're a small-town merchant? How on earth do you compete with big business? Minor detail Clutter's smile didn't even twitch. Cozy already hooked me up with his master plan for beer types. Right now, we are stuck with basic barley malt and a single hop variety, but eventually roasted malt. Crystal malt, different hop strains. Aromatic bitter. Dual-purpose ones once we are printing money. Wheat beer too, we lock down the secret for as long as we can. By the time the corporate breweries crack the base ingredients and start sourcing hops, we will already be dropping tons of new flavors to match whatever vibe customers want. And since hops are completely harmless, our competitors cannot cancel us over health safety. They will just assume we possess a secret blueprint for new flavorways in beer. Weird name, is that really what this new Weizen is called? Yeah, Cozy. I claims he heard the term from some nomad from the east. He crossed paths with while traveling. That guy tossed him some bread and barley tea once. So he named the drink after barley beer. Basically a barley drink, a totally fake lore drop. I completely made up to explain, where a 6-year-old orphan picked up a vocabulary word, straight from an entirely different dimension. True story. Though literally no soul in this realm was going to fact-check my totally made-up Eastern Wanderer lore. Keep it simple, Cook muttered. No extra baggage, no cringe corporate branding. A chill bev for ordinary folks, setting the vibe for what was about to go down. As a most low-key SUS era in novice village lore. A trio kept ghosting into the basement at random hours, staring hard at glass jars filled with bubbling golden juice, whispering back and forth, and popping back up with mad, main character energy. Erwin peeped that something was off. One evening at the tavern, he flagged down Vanette. Yo, has Cook been acting kind of goofy lately? Vanette paused to think, now that you mention it, FR. He's been moving like a sneaky link with Cozy Eye. And Clutter, every time I go check on them, they act dead-ass normal. Probably just Clutter being greedy, and using Cozy Eye as a front to get Cook. To cook him up some snacks, valid read though. Completely wrong, but valid logic. 2 months of brewing later. Down in the cellar. Hurry, 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 Cook. Pour me a cup. I need to taste this right now. Clutter was literally vibrating with hype. Cup thrust forward. You've been camping down here, basically every day, for 2 months straight. Staring at beer isn't going to make it brew any faster, bro. What if Cozy Eye's 0.1% L rate actually hits? If I wasn't babysitting, you'd honestly be the biggest hazard to this whole op. Cook shot a side eye, but popped the seal open. The scent hit all 3 of us dead in the face. Hop aroma on point, rich, uniquely floral, unlike anything that even existed in this world's drink lexicon. Our eyes went massive all at once. This is all you, Cook. If me and Cozy, I tried running this solo, we would have totally fumbled and reset twice by now. Clutter watched Cook ladle the brew into his mug. Golden liquid topped with actual foam. Legit foam, a fluffy, creamy crown of bubbles stacking right up the rim. Rising, shifting, holding its shape, bro. Oh, Cook. Are you seeing this? Just like Cozy Eye. Called it. The hops are making foam. I always thought clear, foam-free wine was way more aesthetic. But this amount of foam levels up past aesthetics into something totally next level. Glug, glug. Glug, glug. He was already downing it. Cook hesitated, then scooped a microscopic drop into a small bowl for me, with the exact energy of a school lunch lady, who gatekeeps extra portions like her life depends on it. Kids shouldn't be chugging this. Just take a tiny sip. Purely for science, purely for science. Man was literally hooking a 6-year-old up with booze, and totally playing it off like some elite high-key lecture. I am low-key obsessed with this timeline. FR. The swiftly wiped the foam off his mouth using the back of his hand, and threw a major side-eye up at the ceiling. That subtle bitterness hits just right against the malty sweetness. No cap, the hop aroma brings a whole different vibe to the table. Straight up. The classic Weizen taste just got majorly upgraded. This raw, bitter, aromatic flavor profile with that tiny lingering aftertaste is literally everything these adventurers are thirsting for. Way better than I could have ever schemed. I watched him turn into a full-on certified craft beer snob, right before my eyes, dropping literary deep dives on an alcoholic bevvi. If my old college had a major for this kind of flex, Clutter would have graduated summa cum laude, no cap, hanging out in a dank cellar, clutching a tiny cup of humanity's first actual legit brew. In this realm, I let myself have a quiet, low-key celebration inside. Tuition bag secured to test out the shelf life. We waited a solid month before officially dropping the brew, and once it hit the streets, everyone just thought it was some weird new NPC drink. Totally normal stuff. But that super crisp taste and the thick, creamy foam top had these adventurers losing their minds. The small batch we put out barely made a ripple in the alcohol economy. Exactly how Clutter mapped it out. A quiet rollout, a subtle wave, and then total radio silence while we cooked up a tsunami. Fast forward 2 whole years later, marking my second winter in this dimension. Here's your cut. Cozy, Clutter yawned lazily, tossing me a hefty leather pouch right as I stepped into the tavern. 2 years had completely altered me, and not just mentally, physically too. My hair was jet black now, sporting random white streaks up front that I couldn't even explain. My face was starting to look way more like my old Earth self, almost entirely, erasing the original orphan kid's look. Meanwhile, somewhere in another multiverse, a fluffy white cat was pointing aggressively at a TV screen, giving a whole TED Talk to its cat cafe owner. It's called the Ship of Theseus. Kid, look it up. His cellular makeup is slowly morphing to match his true soul's vibe. Give it like 3 or 4 more years, and he'll be looking dead-ass like his old self. And those white hairs, bro, those aren't even gray hairs. That is literally my divine energy bleeding through externally. So show some respect, period. I unzipped the pouch, and 5 gold solars were sitting right on top, shining bright. Wait, weren't we supposed to keep these beer profits on the down low and reinvest most of the bag? Why is there suddenly this much bread? For the past year and a half, Clutter had been low-key gatekeeping the distribution, only supplying local podunk town taverns to keep the brand flying under the radar, while I stayed busy cooking up new craft varieties. Couldn't gatekeep it any longer, bruh. The hype is insane, plus I've already set up a full brewery and hop farms under a burner identity. Time to flood the entire Jackman Duchy with our own brew. Bro, that shady merchant grin of his was straight up SUS. It dead-ass needed its own wanted poster, ghosting that loudmouth capitalist. I headed over to pick up some jerk beef from Cook. Madison had dipped days ago for some apothecary convention out of town. Erwin was taking a mental health day to grab drinks with Clutter. No blacksmith grind, no potion prep. 0 responsibilities, total main character afternoon for solo grinding. Over the past 2 years, and especially these last 6 months, my physique had finally caught up to all that brutal training. Slinging that iron spear around felt like nothing now. And my archery was hitting a clean 100% precision within 50 meters. Asha finally gave me the green light for solo hunts. Out in the deep woods for hares, foxes, and smaller mobs. Grinding and surviving out here, the forest actually felt like home now. Those creepy shadows that used to spook me were just background scenery. I glided through the timber, utilizing every single trick Asha had drilled into my brain. Scouting footprints, testing the breeze, keeping completely low-key, chilling, feeling dialed in. Then my senses picked up a vibe. Hey, you little punk, what are you even doing? A panicked human voice echoing from deep inside what was supposed to be a totally abandoned patch of the woods. Adventurers have been spawning everywhere with the weather getting warmer, forcing local hunters like yours truly way off the beaten path. But apparently, out of the way wasn't out of the way enough today. I instantly ducked into a downwind thicket, instantly silencing my breathing, masking my scent, and erasing every ounce of my presence. Asha's golden rule, number 1 for situations like this. Unless you've already been spotted, don't sprint, stay hidden. Sit tight and let them pass. My spiritual perception had leveled up massively, stretching over 10 meters in range now. Plenty to scan the whole area without twitching a muscle. While locked eyes on made my blood run straight ice. A guy was slumped on the turf, ghost white and shaking, one hand propping his weight up, the other clutching his gut where a bloody blade was sticking clean out. Shanked straight through from behind, no hesitation, standing right over him. was a masked creep gripping a piece of old parchment. A rogue or an assassin, basically the same job description. Just a different PR strategy, you know how the meta goes. Victim, the masked weirdo, dropped casually. And, yep, the dying dude's actual name was literally Victim, which felt like the universe laying it on. Way too thick for no reason. This place is supposedly some legendary archmage's hidden vault. Maybe there's epic loot inside. Maybe there isn't, but once word gets out, even an empty cave attracts a crowd of noobs. Way safer if only a single guy holds the cheat code. Lower security risk, you catch my drift, right? You absolute liar. We had an agreement, an actual deal. Don't make me cringe. I knew you were plotting to backstab me. The second we located the spot, I was caught on first and initiated the preemptive strike. Technically, I'm the victim here. A galaxy brain victim who protected himself against a shady, treacherous partner. Pretty solid lore, right? He kicked the guy flat on his back and stomped his chest, slammed a second blade straight into his chest, watching the life completely fade from those hate-filled eyes. Then casually wiped both daggers clean on the dead guy's threads. Pocketed his cash. Cast a low-key earth spell to carve out a ditch, and buried the corpse along with all the bloody evidence. Totally low-key, ruthless, and low-key terrifying. I stayed frozen solid, not even breathing, peeping through my spiritual senses as the assassin dipped deeper into the woods while tracking his treasure map. Only when he was completely out of sight did I finally let out a breath. Then, right as my heart rate settled down to something normal, my peripheral vision caught a vibe I was way too stressed to notice earlier. A tiny plant sprouting right beside me. Is it an actual soybean? My inner nerd totally activated. Soybeans, the ultimate goat for making tofu. Soy milk and soy sauce. Total staples of Asian cuisine that historically started over in China and didn't even reach the West for ages. And boom, here was a wild sample growing in some random fantasy world. Medieval forest, with the fuzzy pods held small. Undeveloped beans still stuck in summer mode. Not fully ripe yet and looking kind of malnourished, but 100% genuine soybeans. My brain was already speedrunning tofu. Manufacturing guides. When I shifted my weight against the tree bark, I was leaning on, and suddenly the tree wasn't even there. My back hit nothingness, and the ground literally vanished. Gravity took the wheel.